Managing moderators. Wow, that's new. Okay. Close for now. Cool. Hey, what's happening, everybody? Good afternoon. Uneducated Economist here. 21 of you and already jumped up in here hitting that like button. Thank you so much. Hit that like button for Simon. Thank you very much. Builders are building off a cliff. All right, the market is delusional. I just bought a house the other day. It was bottom market price. Don't be fooled by market prices, folks. Will take less. Builder Boom. Boon. Hey, everyone. All-nighters up in the house. Alrighty. So let's get started onto this, guys. Housing market crash or builders boom? Man, this is a question that everybody is looking to have the answer to. You know, for a while there, it really seemed like everybody was on board with this housing market crash, like prices were going to tumble to the floor and everybody was going to end up homeless, getting kicked out of their house through foreclosures or something. I don't know what the story was supposed to be. But what ended up happening here is there was a huge slowdown in the number of homes that were on the market for sale, or actually buyers coming into them. That started bringing more homes on to the market due to the fact that there was less buyers out there actually purchasing. But that did something to the builders. The builders were like, well, if the buyers aren't here, we're backing away. So for the last 6 months or so, there has definitely been a downturn in the amount of new starts that are taking place. The home builder sentiment had pretty much just plummeted to, I think the lowest, it got down into the 30s. It says here in this article somewhere, what was it? I think it was 31. Yeah, in December, sentiment had fallen to 31. Now, anything above 50 is positive, anything below 50 is negative, and the home builder sentiment right now is still negative. I mean, it's below the 50, but it has increased dramatically from the 31 that we had experienced in December. And in fact, it had, what do they call it, the largest increase in since 2013. Let me see. The National Association of Home Builders Chairman Alicia Hughes says, with the largest monthly increase for builder sentiment since June of 2013, the HMI indicates that the incremental gains for housing affordability have the ability to price in buyers to the market. The nation continues to face a sizable housing shortage that can only be closed by building more affordable, attainable housing. So this is something really interesting to kind of wrap your head around, is the idea that the new normal, right, is starting to set in with the buyers. Where, you know, if there's even just a little bit of downtick in the mortgage rates, they're jumping into the game, right? And at least this is what the home builders are feeling, or else they wouldn't have their sentiment increasing as much as it has. Hey, lumberjack landlord, right on. Good to see you, man. So this is one of the positive signs for the home builders coming into the market and providing new homes, you know, to the inventory, because that's pretty much what is the only thing that's going to bring new inventory is new construction. So some of the things that have been like a headwind for these builders was the supply chain breakdown, prices going through the roof. I mean, lumber running up to the 1,700 per thousand and windows getting pushed out 2 months had really put a pretty big discouragement on new construction. I mean, if you were thinking of, like, think about it. If you were in the middle of a framing job, right? And it's time to get your windows, and it takes 2 months to get them, and you realize the window package was wrong. There was something wrong with it. Even just one broken window, right, can hold that project up for the next 2 months. Now, if you think about it in like the sense of computer chips and how they held up like automobiles from being completed, vinyl windows are very much a similar type of component where if you don't have those vinyl windows, you're not going to be able to complete the siding job. You can't work on the interior. There's really nothing you can do until you get them. And it's not just vinyl windows, they're all windows, but I sell mainly vinyl windows. Now, this was a big indicator for me. Those who've been following me on this channel know that I've talked about this particular item. So there was a time, and for those of you who don't know, I work at a lumber yard. I do retail sales for a living. So there was a time prior to the pandemic and everything else going down that I could order a vinyl window and get it in 10 days. That got pushed out to 2 months. Now we're back at 13 days. It takes 13 days for the time that I order a vinyl window to the time that I can have it at my store to sell. And that is very much a normal lead time. That is what we had experienced prior to the pandemic. This is what I would expect to see now that things are clearing up. right? Now, with that dramatic lead time dropping as fast as it has, going from 2 months down to 13 days, it leads me to believe that there's not a lot of sales, which would make sense considering that the new residential properties have not been started like well, let's see, the new permit issuance have dropped off quite a bit. That would be the starts. If the starts aren't happening, then all the rest of the components aren't happening either, including lumber, siding, all the stuff, right? So we're starting to see it in vinyl windows, and we're definitely seeing it in lumber. I mean, lumber futures today were at 400 per thousand. I think that's what it closed. It actually dropped to under 400 for a short time. Now, what's interesting about looking at the lumber futures is that that is disconnected. That is disconnected from the actual pricing. The price that you pay at the mill to get that stuff delivered is definitely moving up. Even though you see the futures coming down, the cash price, the print price, the actual acquiring of the material is going up, and it's only going to take a matter of time before you start seeing that reflecting into the futures contract. You got to think that futures contract is a contract for just a handful of lumber from a few mills, right? All the rest of the lumber is not sold on contracts, right? So it's only just a slight view of what's actually taking place inside of the lumber industry. Now, it's a matter of inventory levels at this point, right? So I'm kind of bouncing all over the place, but I want to get all this information out. Inventory levels as far as the lumber industry has dropped dramatically. In fact, this is how big the impact of these curtailments are happening. I sell wood burning pellets here at the store, right? We sell just wood, like heating pellets, wood fuel pellets. And I mean, we go through truckloads of this stuff. Like, I mean, it wouldn't be surprised to go through a truckload a week, right? Well, the issue that the pellet manufacturer is having, they actually had an issue with bagging for a while, like their bagging machine went down or something. That left a little gap in production, but then they also are having trouble sourcing out the fiber. You have to think, these mills, the lumber mills that are up around here, the byproduct that comes from that, all the dust, all the fiber, that's what the pellet manufacturers are buying in order to produce the pellets. Well, if the fiber is not being produced because of the mill curtailments, now all of a sudden you're having an issue with getting the product to build the pellets with, right? To make these pellets. Now they're sourcing out fiber from further distances, and again, it's putting a gap in production. So right now, we're out of wood burning pellets, and we don't even know when we're going to get them. And it's due to these issues that are happening, not only with the bagging issue, but then with the mills as far as their curtailments go. So you give this a little bit of time, and this inventory level dropping as much as it is within the lumber industry, if this home builder sentiment pops up over 50 and turns positive, it's going to wipe out the available inventory that's out there, and we are going to see the prices jump up again. How far out into the future that is, I don't know. What it takes to get the home builder sentiment up to 50, I don't know, right? But we're seeing it happen. I mean, if this is the biggest increase we've seen in 10 years as far as the home builder sentiment goes, it's probably not going to be too much longer before it actually becomes positive again. And like I said, with the new normal that we're experiencing here, people want to buy homes, right? And if they can get the loan for it, they're going to sign the deal. So this is what we're moving into here, guys. All right, what you all talking about? 42 of you hit the like button. Please go hit that like button when you come into the stream here. YouTube will pick up the video and start spreading it around for everybody to find and see, and we'll get more people commenting. All right. Goats make pellets. Literally debating if I should build a home now or wait a year or two. If you are going to build a home to live in, do it now. Do it now, because I honestly don't think that you're going to find a better opportunity to build a home than you are right now, right? Lumber prices are down. Sheathing is down. Windows are available. They haven't come down yet. Give it some time. They're probably going to start coming down. The availability of this material is now, right? I mean, the prices on a lot of like the siding, the roofing, the doors and windows, all that stuff, the pricing on that stuff is still quite elevated. But given the timing of the way things are right now, I just don't know if you're going to be able to frame a house any cheaper than you will be able to do it today. And then you think about this. This is the other thing that I've thought about, is that you have a gap in production taking place. Gap in production of whatever it is, whether it's pellets, lumber, siding, windows, whatever you got. If you have a gap in production, that gap leaves very little opportunity for somebody to buy anything, right? Because there's the gap. So if you are one of the few people who are actually building a house when nobody else is, when you complete that house, you are going to be somebody who is very rare, right? Because you're going to have something that nobody else has done. Build a house when nobody else is doing it. So whether that's a good or bad idea, I couldn't tell you. I mean, what the environment will look like by the time you complete that house could be, could be good or bad. Who knows? If it's a house you plan on living in, then what difference does it really make, right? Because you're going to end up living in that house. I mean, you could sell it off in the future or whatever, but as far as like building a house to live in, I don't know how you can mess that up by building now. Like, I just don't see how there could be a better opportunity. Like I said, you might be able to get a little bit better deal on windows and siding and stuff like that, but the availability is now, right? Give it some time. Think about what would happen if we had a huge gap in production taking place, and then all of a sudden we had a builder's, sentiment all of a sudden increase, and all of a sudden there's this huge demand for all these homes to be built. Well, then you're going to end up back into into the depletion of inventory again, and then you're going to have shortages, and you're going to have difficulty sourcing out material and all the other stuff that comes with it. So do it now when nobody else is doing it. It'll probably be pretty easy to do. Thank you very much for the $1.99, John. Very cool of you. Do you accept Fed terminal rate ceiling at 5.5%? Do I accept it, or do I think that's what it's gonna like? Do I think that? To be honest with you, I didn't think the Fed was gonna get it this far, right? But here they are. So 5.5% seems very reasonable. I think the Federal Reserve is tickled pink that they were able to get their Fed funds rate up to that 5%. That's their ammunition. Like, they're ready for the next downturn. They're like, yeah, man, we're in it. We got our ammunition back, and give us something to use with a credible threat, and we'll be good. UBI or something like that. So, all right. I bought a house at the worst time, November of 2006. No, I bought the house at the worst time. It was April of 2007, and I lost. All right. Go back. That's genius. Okay, building a house in 2010 was dumb if you were selling it. Spec homes tanked. Yeah. I would consider building a barndonium. There you go. I build a pole barn now, buy materials as they go on sale, and store it in the barn. Now, that's a great idea, Grow Mechanic. I thought about that a long time ago. It was just like, man, I wish I had a warehouse I could just stuff like, because working at a lumberyard, selling building supplies, occasionally you come across some really good deals. Like, somebody orders this entry door, it was the wrong door, or something like, has a damage to it or something like that, something that you could repair or whatever. And you get these really good deals, but if you don't have any place to store it, then what's the point of getting it? And man, I have had so many opportunities I probably had enough material that I could have just taken for free, just like half, enough to build like 2 houses. Like, I could have done that if I had a place to store it. But if you don't have a place to store it, then what do? You can't just like, hey, I got a bunch of sheathing to build a house. Well, now what? You just got the sheathing. You got to have all the rest of the components, and then you got to actually be putting it together. So yeah, having a barn that you could store materials, that would be definitely the way to go. All right. Are you seeing the bullwhip effect with other items? Well, I mean, to be honest, I like looking at the lumber for the bullwhip effect, but it's just really because it's so easy to see it. Yeah, you can see the mill curtailments. You can't really see necessarily where inventory levels are. Like, you can't just go and just like punch it into a computer and just find it. But talking with people, I can find out where inventory levels are at for the most part. So, as far as the bullwhip effect in other items, I think that would take place, just simply because of the manufacturing of, like, okay, let me see if I can explain this well. Somebody comes in, like, for the fern coat fittings that we were talking about, those rubber couplings, as far as like the bullwhip effect in those, like, I can't tell if there's a warehouse that has 100,000 of those things that were way overproduced, right? Unless you actually call up and say, hey, how many do you have? How many are you moving? Whatever. It's hard to tell like where the manufacturers are in this stuff. I see the bullwhip effect taking place in lumber. It's really easy for me to see it there. I would imagine that if you looked at it inside of, like, say, some of the fiber cement sidings, you would probably find it occurring there as well. I mean, I know when we were coming up in short supply, we couldn't get it from the vendors. We're having issues with it. We ordered a truck and then immediately ordered another truck behind that. We ended up sitting on a truckload of siding for a long time. Like we didn't need all this siding. We could have been getting it from the vendors. We didn't have to have this much. But because we came up in short supply, we couldn't order it. We ordered 2 truckloads. Well, this is an overwhelming consumer demand. The manufacturers look at this and they went like, holy moly, there is a huge demand for this stuff, right? But then once they get it delivered, they realize, man, everybody's just sitting on this stuff. And then, right, orders start to fall because new homes aren't getting built and stuff, right? So manufacturing starts to deplete. And then next thing you know, you go to order it and there's lead times that are starting to pick up because they didn't manufacture enough or they don't have enough inventory on the ground or whatever is happening from that. So it's just a matter of like misunderstanding the amount of inventory or just where the levels are, because nobody can really have a clear picture of it. I mean, if you're a manufacturer, you're talking with the wholesalers out there, but you may not be talking with some of the buyers or retailers or distributors or whatever's going on out there. So you don't know exactly what's happening throughout this entire line. It takes the oversupply, undersupply thing until it eventually finds its equilibrium, and then they go, okay, this is where we should be at. But until that happens, nobody knows. So yeah, I think the bullwhip is gonna, the bullwhip effect is going to continue for years. I mean, it's going to take a while to equalize that. All right. Don't newly build, preserve established real estate. Well, I'm thinking it's the idea of new inventory coming to the market. I mean, even by this Alicia Hughes, she says, the nation continues to face a sizable housing shortage that can only be closed by building more affordable, attainable homes. So, yeah, it's a matter of building homes. I mean, if you want cheap homes, you got to increase the inventory. In order to increase the inventory, you got to build homes. And the only thing that's really not falling dramatically is like multi-residential, like apartment buildings and stuff. Those things are still, they're still building those. And probably the reason is that rents are going to stay elevated. So long as you don't have a place to buy, you're going to have to rent. And if they're not building places to buy, but building places to rent, guess what you're going to do, All right. Real estate agents and the bull stuff effect. All right. I drove concrete trucks and we literally built thousands a month. All right. I mean, you can go around and you can go and confirm your bias. Like if you're like, no, they're building everywhere. Look, I got these, developments and I got all these places that I can, that's cool. Like, I mean, yeah, you can go and find it. If you want to go see it, you can go see it for yourself. What I'm looking at is like, I should have put a link down in the description, but if you type in like new residential homes by permit or something like that, and then type FRED at the end of it, FRED, that goes to the Federal Reserve educational site, something. Anyway, it gives you all the charts, all their data that they have, right? And if you go and look at the new residential single home permit issuance, it has dropped dramatically. It's like a huge drop to it. So, yeah, there might have been a lot of starts that have already been in the game. Like, prior to this information that you're seeing, these are starts that have already were in the pipeline. Completing homes was a logistical nightmare for the longest time. So there's like a lot of homes that have been started that are now going into completion, right? So you're finding a lot of those coming onto the market. It's the new starts. It's the new permit issuance. That's the gap in production that I'm talking about. Not all the stuff you see. Like you can go out there and see that stuff that has already started. It's the stuff that hasn't happened yet. The ideas that are not taking place. Like you have to like literally go, I want to build a house. And then how long does it take to actually get it? Right? There's some people, like I know a guy, I want to get him on here to talk. I know a builder who does everything in cash. And I kid you not, he can have a house built like that. Like the time that he decides that he's going to build a house, or the time like it's finished and people are like moving in, is incredibly fast. I mean, he gets it done. And he knows the game. I mean, he has a lot of people who he knows that he can call for siding and roofing and all the other stuff. Like he'll bring crews in from other cities. He doesn't waste time. If he can't find somebody, he finds them. And so there's no like messing around. And he's still building today. So, yeah, I mean, let's move on here. Immigration is way to lower wages. Is a way to lower wages. Um, yeah, I think immigration is definitely keeps wages low. I mean, it's kind of interesting to think about having new people coming into the economy. You know, I mean, I thought about this too, because like if you have a lot of immigration, you can keep the wages low, just because typically, you know, you would think like, you know, immigrant from another nation might be willing to take on a lesser wage. But I got to thinking about that a little bit, and I'm like, you know, once you get a bunch of new people established, that's a lot of available credit that can be taken out, you know. And so, anyway, cash sales sounds like drug kingpins. All right. It does more than. And okay, how do you buy the membership to the channel? Can you do it on mobile or computer? Yeah, absolutely. If you go and look down in the description, usually I leave a link right there that you can go and just click on that link. And then also, if you go to like the homepage, my about page, or just the channels page, there's a little tab there that says join next to the name, and you can find it there. But yeah, go down to the description and you can find the link down in there. And thank you for joining the channel. I do put out membership only videos, just so I can, you know, give you guys something benefit to being a member of the channel. It only costs $1 a month. You get to support the UE channel by, you know, becoming a member. Get access to these membership only videos, which I thought were pretty good. We did one earlier today talking about UBI. So go check that one out. It's you know, if you got a dollar, I mean, it's, you know, it's a cheap price to pay to get some of that kind of information and videos. And like I said, it really supports the Uneducated Economist. And, you know, considering that, you know, the YouTube algorithm and the AdSense revenue and all that other stuff is so like, is so volatile and all over the place. It's kind of a, I mean, don't get me wrong, I enjoy, you know, doing the channel and enjoy everything that happens from it. I certainly appreciate all the, you know, all the support that comes from it, and, you know, the financial changes to my life, everything that is, you know, that this channel is supported. But it would be nice to have like the UE viewers really being the main sponsor for the channel. And then like I wouldn't stress about, like, I don't stress about it anyway, but I wouldn't think about like ad revenue or sponsorships or anything. It would just be the, you know, the UE viewers that I would be focused in on, and that's it. So anyway, thank you very much for joining the channel. All right. Materials in Florida cost more than in Michigan on a lot of things. Well, yeah, you got to understand, like, not all material is going to cost the same in every location. I mean, you got to think there's distance that a lot of this stuff has to travel. There's a lot of lumber over on the East Coast that comes from the West Coast, right? So they end up buying a lot of the lumber in the middle of winter and shipping it over to the East Coast so that they'll be prepared for the building season. So that transferring of lumber over to the East Coast, I mean, that adds cost to it, right? Anything like, you know, if you're in a particular area that has a higher demand for it, I mean, obviously if you got more demand and less supply, the prices are going to be up. So you could find the exact same product in different parts of the nation and find dramatic differences as far as what the actual price of it that you would pay is. So, but I think that has a lot more to do with distance and demand, you know. Hey, is Jaws up in the house? Hey, Jaws, what's happening? I have $1 a month. We'll be signing up. Well, thank you, Jaws. I appreciate that, man. It's good to see you up in here. All right. This is the best channel on YouTube for information. Well, thank you, Kenny. I appreciate that, man. I mean, you know, there's all kinds of information out there, you know, and it's not a matter of like, this person has the best information or that person's right or whatever. It's a matter of like compiling all this stuff and then using what it is that you have learned to best conduct your life, right? To figure out what it is that is going to be the best decisions for you. I mean, you know, what I do with my life is going to be different from what you do, different from what All Nighter does. I mean, everybody's going to be doing something a little different, trying to figure out how it is that they're going to, you know, increase their real estate portfolios, figure out how to start a business, learn how to invest. I mean, everybody's doing something different here, and we all have to figure it out for ourselves. And that's where like gathering all the information is just like, it's critical. Don't deny, like, even if you think the source is like not good, they might have a little piece of information within that you're like, man, I didn't think about that. That's a little nugget of gold right there that I could use. It happens. Like, I mean, so don't ever deny like what the information is. Sometimes you listen to it, it's like, man, this guy's really out there. But then again, who knows? Who knows what you'll get off of that. All right. Hurricane Places OSB is more. Vinyl siding is hard to get in some colors. Yeah. I like local lumber yards. Had a unit delivered last week. Best price, $75 delivery. Yeah. Do more bingo streams. Yeah. Who is that? Man, I really want to. I'm going to do bingo streams again. I just have to figure that one out. I almost did it last week. I was going to fire it up for like the last hour of bingo and just kind of get it started, but I don't know. Maybe I'll just do it and we'll see if we get in trouble. All right. New lots and just too expensive to continue building. Clearing the 2019-2020 backlog and then buyers' cancellations will bring new inventory. Do you think it will drive existing home prices down? No, I don't. I think the new inventory that's coming on is from even the cancellations, even the incompleted homes, all that stuff. I think even if it was a wave of them coming in, it's not going to be enough of them to make up for the fact that there's a gap in production taking place now. So it might be like for a short time, they'd be like, whoa, look at all these homes that are getting completed and canceled, whatever, they're available to buy, but then there won't be new ones on top of that, backing that up. So it'll be like maybe an initial, boom, here they are. But then as far as like more coming in, like a continual flood of them, I don't see that happening because we have that gap taking place right now. So far right now, we're going to have 6 months of no new or less new homes. I shouldn't say no new homes, less new homes coming onto the market. Now, how far out into the future that's going to be, the gap has been going on for 6 months. It's probably going to go on for a few more months. So what are we going to have, a year or more of like less new homes coming onto the market? It's hard to say. Did I get another super chat? I did. Hey, Jaws, thank you so much, man. Here's 10 more. What were you and your family framing? Oh, okay. Framing on the YouTube shorts. Also, I agree. Bring back bingo. All right. Yeah. On the shorts, I had there was a shorts video that we did. I had Freddie, my youngest. He was toenailing a screw from a 2x4 into a 2x4 stud into a 2x4 plate. Basically, we were putting up a little bit of framing that we're going to hang some chicken wire off of, and we're building the chicken coop. So that was just one of the studs that we were using for the framing of the actual holding of the wire. So yeah, we'll show you the completed chicken coop when we're done with it. We got the wire up, we're getting the doors built, and then hopefully, I think probably here in the next month or so, the farm and feed stores are going to start having the chicks coming in, all the little baby chickies. So we'll get some of those and raise them up and have a good time raising birds again. And thank you, Josh. Thank you very much for the $10, man. Let's see here. Building costs way too much on every phase to have a lot of new builds flood the market. Well, that's true on everything but the framing. The framing part of home building right now has dropped back down to the normal. 2x4 studs are $325, $350 a piece or something like that. That was at $13.50 at the high. So $10 a stud has come out of the price of 2x4s. And then on the sheathing, the half-inch CDX, that was selling for $82 a sheet at one time. We have that at $25. And if you want to go down to the 4-ply, we can even get it to $20 a sheet. The OSB, I think we have that at like $14 a sheet. We're back. This framing is back to normal. If you wanted to frame a house and get it framed, I don't know why you would just want it framed. You would want to have it roofed and sided too. But right now, framing a house is cheap. It's cheap as it's been, right? Cheap as it's been for a while. Like, probably 6 or 7 years. I don't even remember the last time a 2x4 was down at $3.50. I mean, well, I guess that's not true. I mean, I saw them down at like $2, a few years ago. But really, I mean, $3.50, that's a very, very normal price. All right. Our labor hasn't changed in 3 years. House building in Michigan is going crazy. Metal framing has come down a lot. I work in home building and we've been getting reductions from vendors. Well, that's interesting. I'm not, we don't deal with a whole lot of metal framing, like as far as steel studs and stuff like that. Occasionally, somebody might call for some for a commercial job or something like that, but it's really not a big moving item for us. Um, but however, steel panels, the 3 foot wide, I mean, a lot of people refer to it as pole barn metal or, barn metal, roofing metal. Anyway, 3 foot wide painted corrugated metal. The price on that stuff has come down. Well, it wasn't, I shouldn't say dramatically, but it was a significant price reduction. I mean, normally when you see price increases or decreases, like in a normal, time, not during like high inflation and stuff, like, if you saw a price increase of 2%, that would be normal. 5% would be like really unheard of. So to have an 8% reduction in price, that to me is a pretty significant sign. Now, it isn't like, hey man, this is back to normal. Not even close. I mean, I remember selling this stuff for like $2 a foot. It would be $1.85 or something, like a lineal foot, 3 foot wide, 1 foot long, $1.85. Now, well, it ran all the way up to 550 for that same piece. And now we're down, I think we're down into like the high threes or something like that. I can't remember exactly where we're at on it because there's a few different vendors that we can use and a few different grades. But the prices are coming down, like not to normal, but definitely on the way down, not up. Hey, right on, Kenny Gomez for the $10. Thank you so much. You got me building houses again, and you are right. Lumber is super cheap compared to 2 years ago. Crazy low price on lumber. Well, Kenny, I mean, I'm just trying to give you the information, man. You use it for the best that you can, and if you're taking advantage of the low lumber prices right now, I don't see how this could do wrong. Like, I mean, if you can make it happen, this is it. This is your time. Like I said, give this home builder sentiment up into the 50s, turns positive, and the demand for lumber picks up. There is not enough material out there. It will, I guess it depends on how much demand there is. I mean, if it's just a little uptick in demand, then yeah, you probably wouldn't notice it so bad. I mean, there will be an increase in prices, but it wouldn't explode. But if it just jumps dramatically, like all of a sudden the home builders just go crazy, start taking out a lot of permits, doing a lot of starts, yeah, you're going to see lumber prices shoot up. I wouldn't be surprised to see it go back up to the 800-900 per thousand again. I mean, to me, that would be realistic. I mean, I doubt it'll go back up over 1,000, but who's to know? Who's to say? I mean, if the Federal Reserve drops interest rates, then yeah, that could definitely happen. But I don't see the Federal Reserve lowering interest rates. I believe that they're going to keep the interest rates elevated for a significant amount of time. And people, I think, are starting to clue into that too. In fact, I'm finding articles where people are like, "Oh man, I don't think the Fed's going to be reversing their course. They're going to keep interest rates up." And it's like, yeah, I guess he's been saying that, right? Yeah. Do you guys in Astoria compete with big box stores such as Home Depot on lumber? Yes, we do. Yep, we absolutely compete with those. There's only 3 places that you can buy a 2x4 in the county, and the big box store is one of them. So, um, you can get it from us. You can get it from them, those guys, the big box store, or you can drive all the way to the very far end of the county, and then there's another supplier out that way. But no, there's only 3 places in all of Astoria, or all the county, and only one place in Astoria. So competition, yeah, you compete with them, but then when you think about it, it's a 20-minute drive to get there, to get to the competition. 20 minutes back, that's an hour out of your day. So convenience. All right. Subdivisions everywhere, 3/4 finished. Don't see the housing market really changing, but I did hear a rumor that if it does, Crater central bank digital currency is going to be the only way you could buy anything because of cash going away, thus tanking the market. Wow, there was a lot inside of that. I don't know if the housing market is going to be used to try and push the central bank digital currencies in. I don't think that's the route that they're going to go. If you actually join the channel and go and check out the video that I did earlier today, I talk about exactly how I feel that the central bank digital currencies are going to come in. And yeah, let's talk about it a little bit. So I honestly think it's going to come in through the issuance of UBI. If you go and take a look at, just type in UBI and just hit the news feed, and you will find that there is cities all over the nation right now who are starting up UBI programs. Now, if you're not familiar with UBI, it's Universal Basic Income. Universal Basic Income is where everybody gets basically a set amount of money that you can use for whatever you want. Doesn't matter what you spend it on. Is for you to use however you like. And it's supposed to, like, the idea behind it is it's going to support, those who are not earning enough, like basically keep them out of poverty or something. However, I don't find it universal because only a handful of people are getting it. I mean, the word universal means everybody, right? I mean, that's the whole thing about universal, is that everybody gets it. So if you call it universal, but then say, hey, we're going to draw a circle around a particular group and give it a particular, that's called segregation. And so that's really what's happening here, is it's segregation, basic income. And at the end of it, right? At the end of this program, the people are going to be pissed. Like, everybody is going to be pissed about the ending of this program. One, you're going to have people who are on the program for a year, right, getting $500, $1,000 a month, whatever. They're going to enjoy that, and then one day it's going to go away, and they are not going to enjoy that. Like, a lot of people who are smart might say, man, I'm going to continue on with my life the way it is. I'm going to take that $500, I'm going to invest that, and I'm going to do really good with it. Right? But most people are going to, like, I'm going to get that $500, I'm going to go buy me an ounce of weed, right? Because that's what they want, right? They want to go out there and blow it on whatever fun that they can have. That's what most people will end up doing with the money. Now, when you take it away, that is really painful, right? They're like, oh man, you're taking away my money, right? Because you get accustomed to it. Like, you get it every single month, you get to use it, you think that this is the typical life that you're going to have. Then it goes away, and that's frustrating as hell. And then on the other side of it, you got your buddy who doesn't get it, or the neighbors, or everybody else around you, because it's not universal, right? It's segregated. Only a handful of people are getting it. So your buddy over there who didn't get it, now he's pissed too, because he didn't get any of this stuff and you blew yours. So now at the end of this program, you're going to have a bunch of pissed off people looking at Congress going, you need to do something about this. We all need this basic income. And they'll be like, yeah, we're happy to accommodate you. Yeah. And then here you go. Here's your universal basic income for everybody. And we're going to issue this using a central bank digital currency. Right? And just go and check out, I think it's called Real Cash out of South Africa. They're actually using a UBI program with a cryptocurrency, and I believe they're calling it Real Cash. Go check it out. So it's not like, the United States is going to be like the brand new one to do this. There's other nations who are already doing it with UBI, instituting central bank digital currencies, or at least a cryptocurrency of some sort, whether it's a stable coin or whatever. So these are the things that are taking place. You put that in with a food crisis where people are not able to afford to buy food. Like, they can go down to the grocery store, but they go down there with $100, it doesn't get them anything. That's the type of scenario in which, like, well, here's a bunch of central bank digital currencies. Go get something to eat. Just use this currency. And they'll be like, yep, sign me up, man. Load my wallet up. Let's do it. And they will not resist that. In fact, they will beg for it. They will tell Congress, you need to get this to me so I can go out and do that. Right? And that's how I feel the central bank digital currencies are going to come in. Yeah. Anyway, moving on. Let's see here. I am out of Livonia area. I work superior ground cover. All right. Coke and hookers, yeah. It's always a good time. All right. If you give time, can you check for my last email looking for your opinion on my journey? Yeah, Jaws. I'm sorry for anybody who has sent me an email over the last 4 days. I was kind of spending some time with family and Just doing some other things, not to make up excuses, but basically I set the emails off to the side. So I haven't checked my emails in the last 4 days. So I got a lot of work to do when I get home answering emails. So yes, Jaws, I will look for that and I will respond to your email. What's the definition of definition? Good one. You will get money with restrictions. Division of monetary system. Sounds like the COVID stimulus. Yeah, well, the COVID stimulus was a practice run. Like when they issued out all those stimulus checks, it was so cumbersome. Like they didn't even know. They're like shove this stuff out there, try to get it out, fill the sluices with money. It it didn't work out very well for them, right? Now, the central bank digital currency, it's not like it's going to be any better for them, but it will certainly be a lot more efficient, streamlined, because basically it'll go right from the Federal Reserve computer entry right into your wallet. And that's that not traveling through the treasuries and the Treasury Department and then issuing out checks and then you going down to the bank and cashing check, like all that stuff is just like, just a nightmare of logistics. But entering a computer entry and then boom, your wallet's filled, that is super efficient. Now, I'm not trying to brag it up saying this is a good deal. I'm not. Like I'm not fond of central bank digital currencies. I don't care about the Fed and none of that stuff. But what you think is going to happen and what you care about, like I care, but I know that there's nothing I can do to stop this, right? So like you can fight it all you want, and I'm ready to let's end the Fed. I don't care. Let's go to a gold standard. Let's use Bitcoin. I don't whatever. Man, let's go for it. I don't think that's going to happen. I think the Federal Reserve is going to remain in control. I think that we're going to go into a cashless society. I think we're going to have central bank digital currencies. That's the stuff that I think we're going to do because that gives the powers that be continual power. So that's the path that I think is going to happen. The whole like crashing of the economy and going back to a gold standard and all that other stuff, that is so far off from, I mean, is it possible? Sure. Like you could think like a gold standard is possible, but how would that happen? Like how do you get a gold standard back into circulation again? Well, you could start by like say maybe issuing treasuries with a gold back to it. Like say at the end of the treasury when it matures, you either get a certain amount of dollars for interest rate or you get a certain amount of gold by the ounce, whatever the going rate is of it, something like that. Well, then you can have like a partial backing of the currency, with gold. Um, I would be a little concerned about going to a gold standard considering what it was like here in the United States when we came off the gold standard. You think about it. We had gold confiscation when we were on a gold standard. So going back to a gold standard might entail a gold confiscation again. See, that's like a lot, I don't know if anybody like really has considered that. They're like, we should go back to a gold standard. I'm like, yeah, you might have it all confiscated from you, if that's the case. I don't think that's going to be what's happening here. But how do you go back to a gold standard? It's not. I mean, it's possible. It's just not. It's not easy to do. A lot of people who were given promises won't begin their promise. Right? Like retirees and stuff like that, they would fail. So, yeah, I don't know if that's going to happen. I mean, it's going to fail anyway, in some sense. Like eventually, like retirees will get their check, but it won't buy anything. So, one way or the other, I guess it's going to fail. It's just a matter of time. All right. Did I get another super chat? I did. Thank you so much, Kenny, for the $10. Very cool of you. I see oil and gasoline is going to drop to $2 a gallon next month for commercial transportation, for housing, market supplies. You think oil and gas prices going down? I do. In fact, this is something that that I was asked. I think it was on an Instagram reel that I had answered the question, but somebody was asking, like, what do you think about the oil prices causing more input costs going into inflation? And I said, yeah, the immediate input costs from the high oil prices will definitely cause the prices of things to go up. If you have that oil as an input cost, whether it's transportation or manufacturing or whatever it is, that the price of oil is up, it's going to cause the price of the item to go up. But then over time, I said it was actually going to be a deflationary effect because as the oil prices go up, people will be driving less. If you're driving less, that is less economic activity because not only are you driving less, then you're not going somewhere to spend money, right? You're not going out to the movies, you're not going out to the concerts, you're not going to the, restaurants, whatever, you're not driving there, right? So if you're not driving, then you're not going somewhere to spend money. And if you're not going somewhere to spend money, that's economic activity coming out of the economy due to the high oil prices. So yes, high oil prices cause an immediate impact as far as the input cost going to inflation, but over the longer term, it actually causes a deflationary scenario as people will drive less and spend less money due to the high oil prices. Yeah, anyway. I don't know, does all that make sense? Did I answer the question? I don't know, maybe I danced around the question. All right. Bootstrapper, no one wants my job. We can find workers as it is. We can't find workers as it is. Give me some more stimmy, need that free money. Yeah, well, I think it's coming. I mean, you give it a couple of years, and I wouldn't be surprised if we all start having UBI. You got to think, this is also something that I've gone over. I guess I'm just repeating the video again today, but, if you think about it from the Cantillon effect, right? New money coming into the system, it separates the rich from the poor, right? So as that new money pours in and the people who have first access to that money start enjoying that money, they're buying into luxuries, right? And then if the luxuries go up in price, they don't want to spend it on higher prices, so they start competing by buying foreign products, right? So the foreign competition starts competing with the domestic manufacturing. This is something we've gone over a lot, right? So now you think about it, the system is set up with really just one way to get money into the system. It's a top-down, it's a trickle-down effect. People who borrow the money have first access to it. Those who can borrow it buy at face value, and then the money trickles down to the rest of the economy. Yes, you do have to pay an interest on it, but it doesn't matter. It's the first people who have access to the money. That's the point that I'm trying to make. And that's why we have such a separation between the rich and the poor, is that the poor people don't have access to that money. Okay? So you'll end up with the separation. The more it continues, if we continue on with this system, that separation will continue to grow. It will only get worse. There is no way of reversing that without a total collapse or everybody falling into poverty. So if you're the powers that be who can figure this out, it's just man, we just went and dumped a bunch of money. We tried to get a bunch of the money down to the hands of the people, right? I mean, all these stimulus checks, don't pay your rent, here's, enhanced, unemployment checks, whatever. They pushed a bunch of money down to, to the lower hands, right? To the less fortunate. I don't know how else to describe it, right? Those who don't have it. They pushed it down there for them. And what happened? They blew it, right? They spent all the money. Some of them saved it for a while, but for the most part, they spent all the money. They bought high-priced cars. They dumped it all into whatever, and all that money traveled up the line to the rich. So the rich pretty much just killed it during this time. People who thought they did well by not going to work and getting their enhanced unemployment checks and stimmy checks and stuff thought that they were doing well. They didn't even compare to what the ultra elite did. I mean, they just damn near hit escape velocity. I mean, they just really gained a lot of wealth. So if they were to continue to do this whole system where they're going to inject money into the system like this, it goes from the top, and then they're going to continue to leave us, right? Continue to separate the rich from the poor. Or they got to figure out a way to get that money injected in at the bottom, right? If it trickles down from the top, then it'll just continue to separate, which we're going to have that separation anyway. It's going to continue just because this is the way it is. If you don't fall into poverty, then you're going to continue in this direction. However, you can give the illusion of a reestablishing or building of a middle class if you can get that UBI down to the working people again. Because you think about it, if you have a job, you're earning, $150,000 a year and you're getting UBI on top of it. I mean, hell, you can go from hey man, I can barely feel like I'm middle class to maybe back up into middle class feeling again. So this could be a way of giving that illusion that they're reestablishing or rebuilding a middle class by, injecting this money directly to the bottom. I don't know. That's all theory, so we'll figure it out. Hey, thank you very much, Eric, for joining the channel. That was very cool of you, man. All right, when the central bank digital currency fails, then we will see a gold standard. Yeah, but how would it fail? The only way I could really see a central bank digital currency failing is if the people reject it altogether. Loss of confidence. That would do it. And then, yes, definitely gold would be it, because it would be a loss of confidence within the whole fiat currency system. And if that's the case, then yes, I would totally believe that we would move back to a gold standard simply because there would be nothing else to trade. Excuse me. Hey, he's like losing me here. Okay. Just because there wouldn't be anything else to trade, right? I mean, if you go to the store and like nobody's wanting to use central bank digital currencies and cash is not in the system, there's nothing left, right? I mean, so how do you transition into this gold standard, or how do you transition through that? It's a very difficult thing to do. I mean, everybody is already accustomed to using dollars. You think about it, they transferred out of the gold standard into a fiat currency and hardly anybody paid attention, right? So when they transfer out of the fiat currency into a central bank digital currency and it's on a debit card, nobody's going to notice the difference. They're going to look at it like, as if it was a dollar that was a silver certificate or a dollar that's a Federal Reserve note. They're not going to notice any difference between a dollar in their bank account or a dollar being spent as central bank digital currencies. In fact, most people probably believe that it is the exact same thing, and then once the cash is completely gone out of the system, it'll dawn on them that something had changed. Kind of like silver quarters are. Nobody cared when silver left the change in '64 when they started doing nickel copper clads on our quarters, silver change. There was a couple of people who understood it, but for the most part, nobody cared. Like, they were looking at silver quarters or the new quarters and just considering them the exact same thing, didn't care. Nowadays, had you at the time in 1964 decided that you were going to open up a laundromat and save every one of those quarters, you think about what you'd have today. All right, man, so many comments up in here. Right on. Okay. Do you think housing prices would go down a lot if there was a cap on mortgages which only allowed a max loan term of 5 years? I think that would screw up a lot of stuff. Yeah, house prices would definitely go down. There is very little doubt in my mind that they would. But I have a hard time trying to necessarily wrap my head around like a manipulation of the market of such fashion, because you got to think, for every there's a bunch of cause and effects that will start to occur that people did not realize was taking place or would take place if you were to do something like that. And so immediate, trying to think of what would the cause and effects be from capping off something at 5 years. I'm trying to think man, nobody can afford to pay off a house in 5 years. I mean, that would be impossible. So then all of a sudden the house prices would have to come down to the capabilities of the buyers, right? And so what would that be? What would the interest rates be on a 5-year loan? What would, there's so many questions and so many variables inside of that. It's very difficult to say this is what it would look like. But as far as if you could only get a 5-year loan, yeah, I think prices of homes would drop dramatically. Yeah. KB had 68% cancel contracts. Nobody spends like central banks. Feudalism. Hey, all-nighter, how are you, my friend? Okay, question. Do you buy lottery tickets? Nope. I remember one time, there's this little campground over on Highway 101. It's called Bud's. Bud's Campground is the tiniest little convenience store, right? And so I was in there, I forget, I'm buying a beer or something like that. Yeah, I was buying a beer. I was buying a tall 24-ounce can of beer. And I remember it was the lottery must have been way up there because there was all these people online buying lottery tickets. And I remember I only had a couple of bucks on me anyway. And so I had this can of beer and she was just like, well, aren't you going to buy a lottery ticket? And I'm looking at her and I look at the beer and I look at her and I'm like, no, I'm going to go for the for sure thing. I know what's in this can. So that was yeah, that's me and lottery tickets. I don't buy lottery tickets. Occasionally, if this the other coworkers that I work with, occasionally we'll all get together and we'll pool and buy a bunch of lottery tickets. So just kind of a pool buying. I'll participate in those. I'll participate in that stuff. And then anytime anybody ever tells me they bought the lottery ticket, I always ask them the same thing. Hey, if you win, you buy me a pickup truck. It doesn't even have to be a new one, just a pickup truck. I just want one. You know, everybody always says yes. So that's my deal with lottery tickets. All right, Simon was buying a can of Budweiser. Nope, I probably wouldn't be buying Budweiser. It would probably be Busch. Like, I mean, it's an Anheuser product, but not. I generally didn't buy Budweiser. I would either buy Busch or I guess usually it was just Busch. That's what I drank. I was just a horrible drunk. All right, lottery is tax on the poor. Yeah, for sure. 24-ounce buds are 5.5% in the Pacific Northwest. Everyone knows this. All right, nothing wrong with Bush. Josh should show. Jaws should show right away. Canada has only 5-year mortgages. You refinance every 5 years. The U.S. is one of the few places you can get a mortgage for. Yeah, and then what's the price of Canadian homes? They're like stupid, ridiculously expensive. So how does that work? Like, you know, I mean, here you got a 5-year loan that you have to refinance every year or every 5 years, but yet the prices are going through the roof. So I don't know. Like, again, like the cause and effects from things. But isn't it a lot easier? Like, you don't even have to have like. Doesn't your income have to only be like 50%? Like your income doesn't have to be that great. Like if I remember right, like only one person, one income has to cover the bills or something like that. Like in the United States, they want like 25%. Like they don't want any more than 25% of your income going to the house payment or something like that. And I think in Canada they push that up to like 50 or something, isn't it? I don't know what the rules are, but it seems like that was the case when I was reading about it. All right, did they still brew Olympia up in the Pacific Northwest? Yep, they sure do. All right, I grew up on Busch beer. Hey, hold on one second. Hey, bro, I'm making a video. And some dude's staring at me through my window. All right, I guess it's okay. Let's see here. All nighter. I guess it's under. Bro, come over here. Go away. All right, I will survive without the star. Optimism is getting a 30-year loan. All right, cool. There he goes. Now he's leaving me alone. All right. I lived in Canada for 2 years in Canada, still till I got pulled for a parking ticket. Sorry, this guy is just kind of walking around the car. There he goes. He's leaving now. All right. Thanks, UE. Appreciate all the content you provide. Well, thank you very much, RE. I really appreciate it. You know, we try to come out here, have the discussions going, bring up the topics, try to, break it down and understand it as best we can. Hey, UE, what are your thoughts about credit cards? In my opinion, they are a tool. The problem is people's lack of education how to use them properly. Credit is so important in the US. Can't get management without one. Can't get MTG. What's MTG? What is that? Am I missing that? Anyway. Credit cards. Yeah. Credit cards gave a purchasing power to the United States consumer, unlike anything they had ever had before. Like all of a sudden, they're just like free-flowing purchases happening. Now, I think about like the individual with a credit card. Now, I have a bunch of credit cards, right? Like I used it to build up my credit because I had really bad credit after my foreclosure and just all the crap that had happened. Using a credit card to establish, a good credit score is easy. Like you just have to be very disciplined with it, right? So like I took out, I don't know, over the course of like a year, I took out like 4 credit cards, and I would make purchases on them like no more than $100, and then I would pay off all but $5 of it, right? Don't pay off your cards completely, just pay off all but $5. Now, if you are constantly doing this, it shows payments, right? It shows, monthly payments that you're making on these things. That's what they want to see. Like they just want to see that you have credit, how much you have, if you're using it, and if you're paying on it. Like if that's all the case, then you're going to get a good credit score off of it. So using credit cards, I mean, I took my credit score from like, I don't know, 500, 580 or something like that to, over 800 in a matter of like, I don't know, 2 years. Less than 2 years, I was able to do that. And so credit cards in that sense, they're they're handy. I mean, you can use them just about whenever you want. If you don't have to go and try and acquire the cash, but you have to be disciplined. And when you have things like now where they're offering cash backs, 5% cash backs, on some of these cards, that's pretty good. You get 5% of your life back. I mean, if you can, make sure and pay that thing off every month, I find it to be a good thing. Like, there's a lot of benefits to having credit cards. Problem is that most people just start spending and spending and spending and spending and spending, and then it's all spent up, and then now they spend years trying to pay it off, and it's a really high interest. So using credit cards for the credit part of things, like you're going to actually like make the payments on it, terrible idea, unless you happen to get like a card that has 0% interest for a year and you plan on like making a big purchase and then paying it off within a year. That's kind of like a way of borrowing money without actually having to pay any interest on it. But you screw that up, and then they tack on all the interest for the entire year right onto that thing if you miss it by even one day at the end of it. So, yeah, I'm okay with credit cards. It's just you have to you have to be disciplined. All right, did I get another super chat? I did. Thank you very much, Robert Shields, for the $9.99. Very cool of you. I read today that the reason some areas have 2 to 3 times the inventory year over year is due to the national migration trends pre and post pandemic. I'm on Cape Cod and inventory is non-existent. Yeah, and I mean, we do have more inventory here in our area. I mean, than we did like, over the last couple of years, but it's still not dramatic, not dramatically higher. So I don't know. And again, like, from the article that you were reading, Lumberjack Landlord will talk about this a lot. The housing market is huge. It's vast, and it is spread out, and there is a lot of different markets, a lot of different areas. I mean, you take the exact same house, same plan, same structure, same every bit about it, and you just put it in a different location, and all of a sudden the price comes off hundreds of thousands of dollars. Just being in a different location, right? Because location is everything. So depending on what housing market you happen to be looking at, could be dramatically different from, somebody else's. When I speak, I have I generally speak like in a broader term, like, this is kind of like the general idea of what you would expect. Now, you can go to a particular region and say, all the things that I see says that you're wrong. But, you're looking at an isolated spot. Like, I think about the whole country, everywhere, at the same time. You can't really generalize that. And if you do, you're going to find plenty of discrepancies from it. So, anyway. Having lived in Michigan and now Boston, yeah, huge difference. Yeah, I could bet. Housing is cheap in Ukraine right now. Ugh, yeah, I bet it would. Roger and Amma and third-party debt collectors are extremely limited. Let's see here. There are 1,000 people per day moving to Florida and Texas. Yeah, I can believe that. The burn factor. That's not too bad, less than mine. Huh. All right. Canada needs to kick the Chinese commies out back to China. Hey, Lord Humongous, how you doing, man? All right. Credit cards are unsecured. Who cares if you pay it back? It's money out of thin air. Yeah, that's true, but it's not really money out of thin air because a lot of people, I don't know if you know it, but credit cards, so like, when you make a purchase on it, you create an instrument of debt, right? Now you're thinking, well, I ain't gonna pay it, whatever. That's cool, but the instrument of debt still existed. Like, as soon as you swipe it, boom, this instrument of debt is now created, and that has value to it, surprisingly, right? So even whether you pay it back or not, it doesn't matter. Somebody out there is willing to take on the risk of buying it because they think that you might pay it back. Now, when you take those type of transactions, those credit cards and stuff, and you bundle it up with a whole bunch of other people's, they sell them off as securities, right? Like, much like a mortgage-backed security. Same thing with credit cards. They kind of do the same thing with them. So it's not money out of thin air. I mean, it is money. I mean, the initial purchase might have kind of come out of thin air. I mean, but it did take money from somebody's bank account to another bank account. It's the investor on the other side of that who is just like whether or not they're going to get paid back from it. Then it might be thin air for them, you know? All right. Instrument is pennies on the dollars after default. In Canada, you can walk away from a home but can't walk away from your mortgage. You can't walk away from your mortgage? Like you can't get foreclosed on in Canada? Really? Gold is money, everything else is credit. Yeah, that's for sure. Good old Lord Humongous, he loves that gold. Calling credit money is part of the problem. Yeah. A mortgage is a good write-off. Gotta be in debt in this country. Yeah. Having lived in Michigan. Oh, we already did that one. Okay. Credit equals debt. Yeah. All right. Get zero interest cards and never keep it balanced. Then the 0% is up. Get another one. Only have them for emergencies or buying something under market value. Yeah. If negative if negative equity can't walk away. Oh, wow. See, now that would scare the hell out of me if you're like, you're locked into this house and you can't walk away from it. I mean, it was sad walking away from the house that I had, that got foreclosed on, but it was also kind of nice to just finally just get rid of it. Just be done with it. It was such a nightmare, so frustrating, so hard to deal with that, just walking away from it actually felt good. I mean, years later, I went down and had to deal with a bunch of, other stuff that came from it. I do not suggest walking away from a home loan. Don't do it. It was very much the wrong decision to do. But I mean, what do you do? That's what I did. Copper and nickel are both monetary metals as well and money. Yeah, that's actually true. I mean, when you think about it, I mean, nickel and copper are definitely, metals of value. And I kind of thought about that, like, when our quarters got switched from, silver to the copper clad thing, it pretty much made like tokens, right? We had money and then they issued us tokens, right? These things that kind of symbolize money almost. But what they made those tokens out of actually was metal, and they do have a value to them. And if inflation does ramp up high enough, you could bring quarters and dimes back to their face value again, which is kind of interesting to think about. Right now, nickels are face value. And if you have a pre-82 penny, the copper pennies, they're like 200 and something percent of their face value, 230% of their face value. I haven't checked it lately. But really, that's pretty cool if you think about it. You get all your changed, if you have a roll of copper quarter or copper pennies, you actually have $1 worth of metal, right? Think about it. You can double your wealth just by having copper pennies. You can secure your wealth in nickels, right? I mean, a nickel is face value. So even like if I'm just completely like crazy, right? If you had all your monies in nickel and literally like 5-cent nickels, and we had a hyperinflation scenario, your wealth would be secured because you have the weight value of the metal. And then if I'm just crazy and we don't have a hyperinflation scenario and the deflation, kicks in or whatever, then you just spend it at face value. There is no loss, like no loss at all by holding on to or holding on to nickels. It's just like, it's a way to absolutely step away from any kind of third-party risk. No more 40,000 a year jobs. Renting is their hope for buying a house in this housing market. 40-year job renting is their hope for buying a house in this market. Midwest area, I don't know where to start. I don't mean to sound discouraging or whatever, but $40,000 a year isn't going to get you a house. You're going to have to do a lot more than that. You're going to have to partner up. You're going to have to do more jobs. You're going to have to come up with more income, because $40,000 a year, I mean, it might get you one in, like, I don't know, Missouri or something like that. You might be able to find a house there that you can buy, on a $40,000 a year income. But it's unfortunate. It's just not the way it is anymore. Um, I mean, even I myself, like, if I didn't have the YouTube revenue that I could show for income, I wouldn't have gotten the mortgage for my house. So, I mean, our regular jobs, our regular day jobs, wasn't enough to cut it to get the house. I had to show the YouTube revenue as well. So, I mean, in my area, I would have been gone. Like, a regular, just 9 to 5 job, you're not buying a house in Astoria. Not going to happen. Unless you have saved up your entire life and you have a hell of a down payment that you can bring that, principal down to a level that, a $40,000 a year income could pay the mortgage payment on. But I just don't see it happening. So it's sad. I mean, it's a sad case, because, like, people want to be hopeful. They want to say, no, man, I mean, I can do this, right? I can get this done. And there is ways. I mean, I'm not trying to say that your chances of getting a house are completely gone. That's not true. The chances of you getting a house are definitely there. You're just going to have to get creative in the way you do it. Like, follow Lumberjack Landlord. He will explain all the different ways that an individual can get into a house, right? House hacking is the best way to get it. Like, getting a duplex and living on one side of it, or, being able to, like, I don't know, live in an RV in the back or something like that. There's all kinds of ways of being able to acquire a house and then not be the one who's making the payments on it. And that's really what you're going to have to do if you have a $40,000 a year job. And that is possible. So, I mean, don't get discouraged thinking that there's no way. You're just going to have to get very creative with it and just understand that it may not be the ideal, like, ownership of a home. Like, most people want to buy a home, they want to enjoy the entire thing, all of it themselves, right? They want to enjoy the house, they want to enjoy the yard, they want to enjoy all of it themselves. They don't want to say, well, I get to enjoy this little tiny piece of the corner of the property while I rent out the rest of it. Like, that's not very appealing to people. But if you only have $40,000 a year, that's probably what you're going to end up having to do, right? And then in that case, then yeah, you do have options. All right, a single bed flat in the UK, 150K. UK is really done for. I am in the UK, and our average wages are $30,000 a year. Takes a lot of energy to smelt them down, and it's illegal. Oh yeah, yeah, that's true. But that's not the point. That's today, right? That's today trying to deal with it. Give us some time going into the future. I mean, people would have said that exact same thing about smelting down the coins, back when in 64. They would have said it wouldn't have been worth it. But had you held onto those coins back in 64 till today, obviously a long time ago, but you get what I'm saying, is that today it would be very much worth it. So yeah, doing the effort of collecting those coins today doesn't really make a lot of sense for the value that you can get out of it today. But say copper shoots up, say it goes 3, 4, 5 times higher than it is today. I mean, you could have pennies that are worth dimes, right? I mean, a roll of pennies be worth $5. I mean, think about it. That's like a very feasible thing that could happen. So I hold on to all my copper pennies. I don't know, I got like a 5-gallon bucket of copper pennies. All right. Let's see here. UK is really done for. Okay, we went through those. 40,000, get 2 roommates for a few years. And that's it. Like, that's how you have to get creative. I mean, it can be done. I'm not saying that it's not possible, but a $40,000 a year job going down to a bank, they're going to be like, I don't think so, unless you got a hell of a lot of down payment. All right, thanks, UE. I appreciate that. God bless. Well, yeah, thank you guys for being here. I mean, we got 208 of you up in here, 139 likes. Go hit that like button. We'll get more people up in here. We'll get more comments and keep this conversation going. The media never made headlines of how many people were committing suicides the last housing crash. I don't know, man. I was reading a lot of articles on that stuff, and it was not good. In the 30s, they made bridges low because of this reason. All right. I don't mean to laugh at that. I had never heard that they were building bridges low for that reason. Like, I think if you jump off of a 50-foot bridge or a 150-foot bridge, it's probably going to end the same, you know? Sorry, I don't mean to laugh at it. I just trying to think of the logic behind that. I seen manhole covers getting stolen back in the day. Oh yeah, for stealing it for the scrap metal. I got plenty of junk silver. Yeah, I like junk silver too. I mean, I got a pile of dimes and quarters, and I think those will probably end up being like one of the best trading barter tools, going into the future. If you ever have an issue with, like, the monetary system collapse or something like that, silver dimes and silver quarters, they're recognizable, and you know what the weight is. I mean, for the most part, you know what the weight is. So that's going to make it really easy to transfer, in a barter, right? Because people are going to recognize it and know what it is. A lot of people may not recognize silver eagle or what the value of it is. I mean, I guess by that time, people probably would. But when it comes to like a silver dime, silver quarters, small denomination, very easy to transfer. To me, it's a good barter tool. Yep, small scale trade. Yep, I'm waiting for silver to skyrocket. Yeah, and I don't know. I don't know if silver will skyrocket in that sense. I mean, it has to have a disconnect from the paper market, and that's really where I think, like, it's going to be very difficult for silver to find those great all-time highs beyond the $50 an ounce that it's achieved, just simply because the paper manipulation keeps slamming it down. There will come a time, though, that it will break free. And it's already, you notice it a lot now with the premiums as high as they are. But at some point, there's going to be a manufacturer who goes to build a cell phone or a computer or do something, and they're not going to have access to the silver. And they will pay any price for it, because the little tiny piece of silver that they need to complete their project is going to be, the cost of it is going to be so insignificant that they will pay a lot of money to get it, right? So that, in that case, like, if that was to happen, then it doesn't matter what the paper market does, the physical price of it will explode, right? As these manufacturers will demand it at any price. And then in that case, yeah, then that would be your opportunity to sell. But right now, as far as institutional investors jumping in, I don't know anybody who does it. Like, I mean, I talk about this stuff all the time, and I encourage people to buy into, silver and cryptocurrencies and stuff. Nobody buys any of that stuff. Everybody buys stocks and real estate and bonds and stuff. Yeah, whatever. All right. Thoughts on possible World War III. P.S. I know you don't like talking about politics. You know, it's not that I don't like talking about it. It's just that once you start into, like, these kind of discussions, I had just even the slightest little discussion talking about the New World Order with a coworker today, and he lit up. Like, I mean, he was like getting all like pissed about it. And so he wasn't pissed, but he was like lighting up about it. And I'm thinking, this is why I don't talk politics. It's because the moment that I start talking about it, everybody was just like, well, they're coming after you, and it's all like, it's all these particular Congress people or this particular group that's doing it and all that. And I just have to, like, eventually I'm like, you know what? Whatever. To me, like, the war is more of an economic event than it is a political event. Now, I know a lot of people, argue with that, whatever. I mean, just go back, think about it like this. Every war has always been fought over territory. Whether it's my land, not your land, my commodities, not your commodities, my whatever, right? That's what it's all fought over, right? It is about control over the flow of money and the commodities that are within that state. That's what wars are really all about. And now, even think about it, like, even reading in Cantillon's essay, right, talking about how the bitter wars that the Native Americans, waged here in the United States prior to, the settlers coming. They would wage these major wars against each other. And what were they fighting for? hunting grounds, right? Stay out of my food, stay away from my place, get out of here. You can't take from this. This is my area. And so they would fight these major wars just so that they could have the right to hunt this particular area. That's what all wars are about, right? That's what it's all about. And so when it comes down to controlling the world powers out there, right? The new world order, whatever it is that's coming down on us. You got to think there's going to be powers out there that are trying to gain, like, it's not just one single individual who's at the top of the game, right? There's a lot of people that are out there, right? And these are like families, so to speak. They're not the politicians. Like, you don't see these people. This is another reason why I don't follow politics, is because there's a screen between those people up there, those families, the ones that truly run this world, right, who have control over it all. They're up here. And then they got this government that talks to all the people, and they're separating us, right, because we're down here. Then you get government, and then you got them up above it. And so if you're blaming government, you're actually blaming a screen that blocks you from the real problem that's up there. So when we're focusing in on Congress, that is exactly what the powers that be that want. They're like, yeah, blame those dudes. They're the problem. That's it right there. Good job, guys. That's why I don't focus in on them as being the problem. They're not my problem, right? There might be other people's problems. The bigger problems that are out there are above the government, right? So trying to change government isn't going to do anything. It's pointless to try and change government. You got to wipe government completely out of the entire game. Make them irrelevant, right? Make the banking system irrelevant. That's where I love the idea of smart contracts, right? Cryptocurrencies and smart contracts. Government says, oh, I hate that. We can't have that. If the government hates it, I love it. Like, they hate encrypted messaging service. When I heard that, I remember, this is another one. It was right when Donald Trump first became president, and I forget, they were talking with security advisors or something, and they made this statement, and I loved it. It was, anybody who uses an encrypted messaging service is a potential terrorist. And I went and I downloaded every single encrypted messaging service I could possibly find, and I used them all. It's just like, go ahead, call me a terrorist, right? Because I want to have my private conversations kept private. I'm not going to deal with that. You want to accuse me of being a terrorist, then let's go. Okay, go ahead. I downloaded every single encrypted messaging app. Where you at? Come get me. Right? I don't deal with that. I don't deal with threats very well. I don't. It's just like, somebody wants to threaten me, and it was just like, let's go and expose that. Come on, let's see. Push your threat. Hey, UE, heard from a friend from Chattawanda, BC, of one mill closure and also some big curtailments happening Prince George South. Your analysis is bang on. Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate that, especially coming from Canada. You would know. Thank you for the 5 Canadian. That's very generous of you. But yeah, it's pretty much what I've been saying. Like, I mean, these announcements, they're not secret. Like, the mills, they stated, hey, we're curtailing development. We're going to pull, these production lines off. We're going to pull back this many million board feet or whatever. They state this stuff openly. Like, it's not like a secret. All of a sudden people are like, oh man, they haven't been producing? Yeah, no, they straight up tell you, right? And we've been talking about it for quite some time. When the lumber prices were up at $1,400 per thousand, tell me, if you were a producer of lumber, how much would you want to be producing at $1,400 per thousand? A lot, right? I mean, you would be pumping out as much lumber as you could possibly push until, what? The lumber prices crash. So at $1,400 per thousand, the mills were in full operation. But when that lumber prices started to fall, and they fall down to 800, 600, 500, 400. Pretty soon they're like, no, the input cost going into making this lumber is more than 400 per thousand, right? What happens? Mill curtailments, shutdowns, and that's exactly what we're going to see. And we find it first in British Columbia because they are high output or high input, right? High cost input and high output producers. So not only does the lumber cost more to produce in Canada, they produce a lot of it, right? So they're sensitive. They're sensitive to the price changes, and when they shut down production, it impacts the rest of the lumber industry. That's going to eventually change. I bet you over the next 10 years, you will not be hearing stories out of Canada anymore. Like you'll still hear them, but not like you're hearing today. Today is the major impact because that's like a major producer that is basically shutting down. They're going to shut down operations. I mean, they will not bring operations back to their prime again for another 30 years. Like they're out of it for a while. And it's mainly due to like the bug infestation and wildfires and maybe bad management. You know, there's a lot of reasons that bring it in there. But they're moving. Like the Canadian mills are moving down to the southern part of the United States. Like they're going to Georgia, right? And in this move, it's like it almost seems forced. Because you think about it, there was a bunch of tariffs that hit the Canadian softwoods. And this is like, it's not Biden, it's not Trump, it's not whatever. These tariffs hit Canada for a long time. It's not one administration saying, I got a good idea, I'm going to put some tariffs on the softwood. No, it doesn't work like that. The whole tariffs things has been impacting for quite some time. So if you're a Canadian mill and you're producing up in Canada and you get hit with tariffs and you're having issues with the supply of timber coming to your mills, why don't you just shut down operations in Canada and open up in the United States? Because that's what's happening. I mean, I think it's Interfor who has now more mills in the United States than they do in Canada, right? And Canfor, West Fraser, all these big time Canadian mills, they're all setting up shop down in the southern part of the United States. So give it time, and that's where I think the big bulk of lumber is going to be coming from. You know, not necessarily from the Pacific Northwest, even though we have a superior lumber up here. And I mean, I guess maybe some people might argue with that, but you know, generally Doug fir larch is considered like the premium framing lumber, and then I don't know, maybe it's not, but pine would be considered the secondary, even though where those Canadian mills are headed to is the pine region, right? So anyway, longest freshwater reserve in the world by far. Largest freshwater reserve. Water will be the next war. Government loves smart contracts. Oh yeah, that's right. We were talking about smart contracts. Don't be deceived, Simon. No, see, this is where I think I think it's, yes, you're right. Government does love smart contracts, and yeah, like even the Federal Reserve in their last speech was talking about smart contracts. So it's definitely something that, in my opinion, is coming. You know, both from the government stands and from the banking and all that. However, I look at it from the anarchist point of view, right? We can write smart contracts as well. Right? We don't need government to do it. We could write smart contracts and then make the court systems and make government and make all those people irrelevant. It doesn't matter. Like, we don't need them to conduct our lives anymore because we got smart contracts taking care of it for us. Good and bad points to it, sure. I mean, there's probably in every case on that. But anything that can take control or responsibility away from the government and put it back into our hands, I'm totally down for that, and it may be messy at first, but I think we could work through it, and make it happen. All right. I pay $93 a month for my 2008 CRV. Wow, that's a pretty good deal. All private timber, not public. You can't barely cut public anymore. Yeah. I frame my cabin with Douglas fir. Oh, right on, Lord. Cash is king, including nickels. Roy Anderson. I insure a 2021 Prius Prime, 2014 CRV, and a 92 F-150 for right around $1,000 every 6 months. Wow, that's really good. I'm trying to think, man. I pay I guess I have 3 vehicles and I'm at like 600. So I guess that's pretty good. I guess that's not too bad. Cash is king, give it a year. Yeah, and when I talk about the strong dollar, I don't anticipate that lasting forever. It's only a short time that this is going to be, like the next couple of years. Pretty much as the Federal Reserve keeps the interest rates elevated for that significant amount of time, people are just simply not prepared for it. Like, they don't think it's going to happen. They think that the Federal Reserve is going to reverse course and drop the Fed funds rates back down. So I think a lot of people are going to catch themselves in the liquidity trap, thinking that they can borrow money and then refinance when the interest rates come down, and then realize they're not going to be able to refinance, and then they're going to have to come up with this extra money to pay these higher interest rates or whatever. And the demand for dollars is going to be much higher during that time. Like, it's just how I see it. Including like even looking at it from like the world point of view. I know a lot of people are saying that the world is giving up on the dollar. All these other nations are doing deals in like, their own sovereign currencies, and they're abandoning the dollar. Yeah, I mean, there's articles out there of that happening, and I do agree that the case is clearly occurring. That is happening. But the chances of like something else taking over as a world reserve currency to replace the dollar, it isn't there. There's nothing there. There's nothing even remotely close that can do it. Will these other nations, will the BRICS nations grow eventually to have that system that can handle all the world's transactions? Sure, that could happen, but it ain't gonna happen tomorrow, and that ain't gonna happen next year, right? So yeah, it's gonna happen at some point down the road, but preparing for that event to occur today, I think is a little premature. I think there's going to be a lot of other opportunities that will make you a lot of money, be able to acquire a lot of wealth using the dollar, right, as the means of exchange prior to it failing as a world reserve currency. Like, I think there's plenty of room and opportunity to take place before that happens. Like, I wouldn't a lot of people think the dollar's gone already. Like, I don't think that the dollar is going to fail within my lifetime. Like, if they could set it up into a central bank digital currency, then I definitely don't think it's going to fail. And they'll take it into negative interest rates, and they will force UBI onto people and all kinds of stuff. And all those things could occur. What I don't see is that utter, completely like devastating monetary collapse where everybody loses everything that they have ever had. That seems so far off. Like, that seems such a far off possibility that, like, I don't even know how to even envision what that would look like. Like, how does that happen? How does it even occur to take place like that? um I mean, I can see where there would be like the failure of the dollar, but there would be an obvious like something else replacing it that you could just like transfer into. It's like, obviously the dollar's not doing it, this is, and it'll be a very quick transfer over. But like, as far as boom, dollar failed, now what? Like, I don't think that'll happen. Like, I think the obvious replacement would be there, and then that would cause the dollar to fail. Yeah. Hey, thank you very much, CC, for the $10 Canadian. BC provincial governments just removed another 400,000 hectares from logging, old growth deferral. Yeah, saying that you can't cut that stuff anymore. In fact, I heard there was a lot more of that happening where they're limiting the amount that can actually be cut. I live between Grand Rapids and Holland in West Michigan, and the number of cars on both new and used lots have been incredibly large. Yeah, see, I've been watching my local dealerships as well to see if they're having an inventory, increase. I haven't. I mean, there is more cars there, but I haven't seen like an explosion, like just packed with cars for sale. That hasn't occurred yet, not in my area anyway. Fruit trees and nickels. Yeah, that would be a good YouTube channel. All right. Anything, food and water. Yeah. What about when the federal government defaults on their debt? Won't happen. They are expected to add another 19 trillion to debt in the next decade. Yeah, it won't happen. They're never going to default on their debt ever. Like, zero chance of default. Right? Zero. The only problem is that even if you got the check, it may not purchase anything. That I can see happening. So there's zero chance of default, zero. But the chances of being able to retain the purchasing power, yeah, that's going to be a whole other story. Because they have the printing press. There's no way they can default. It's just not possible, right? So, and as far as like the debt ceiling, it is a bunch of political push, right? They want to push each other around to try and, get their little agendas passed. The debt ceiling will be raised, right? There's very little doubt in my mind that they will raise it. In fact, I have no concern. All right. I'm hearing lots of Michigan people here tonight. Cheers. I'm outside of Lansing. Right on. It goes burr, but the printer doesn't go burr right now. It goes suck, right? They're in quantitative tightening. They're actually pulling currency out of the system. And, I mean, a lot of people don't want to believe that either. Now, it doesn't mean that the inflation can't continue on through fractional reserve bankings and credit issuance and all kinds of stuff that happens from that. But the Federal Reserve is in a monetary tightening position. They're not in quantitative easing anymore. Zero chance of default like in 1933 and 1971. Yeah, like in 1933 and 1971. Both chances, right? Here they are defaulting on it. But what happened? Right? Give us all your gold. Or in fact, you know what? Never mind. You're not getting any gold. System continues, right? Onward we go. It's not like, yeah, they defaulted then, but the default, I mean, like, what happened? Right? We still got the dollar. I got a dollar from 1950 I can still spend today, right? So it didn't default. I mean, technically, yeah, like that was a default. It was like you couldn't pay your bills. You're done. However, they did, right? They continued on. They changed the system and they made it something different. Just like when they go to default on this one, it'll be like, oh, hey, central bank digital currencies, game on, just like, Wayne's World, game on. Yeah. All right. I just bought my Barndo package for a 36 by 56. Lumber wasn't bad. All right. What's your opinion on working a lot of overtime, 20 plus hours a week? I'm not the person you want to ask on that because I think everybody should be working a hell of a lot more than they do. I mean, I saw once somebody said that they should be 4-day work weeks or 30-hour work weeks or something like that. And I'm like, why? So you can go and work another 30 hours someplace else? I mean, what are you going to do with the rest of your time? If you have chance to work overtime, work the overtime. Like, what else are you going to do? Watch TV? Go hang out with friends? I mean, hanging out with friends is kind of cool, but what else are you going to do? Just sit around? Go make some money. Go make money whenever you can. Like, I don't care if like I all of a sudden I got my paycheck and Google Pay and somebody gave me or whatever and I just got a bunch of the very next day I'm trying to make more money again. Like there is never a time that my mind isn't spinning on thinking about like how it is that I can put out another video or make some other money or doing something else. Like it's a constant spin for that. It's actually it comes at a price. I literally have to dude, spend some time with the family, right? Like stop thinking about work, stop thinking about the channel, stop thinking about all that stuff and go and enjoy some time with your family. But when I didn't do that, when I didn't focus in hard on trying to earn as much money as I could, I didn't think about earning money. In fact, I didn't even care about earning money. And if I didn't have it, it was just like, I'm just not somebody who has money, no big deal, right? But not realizing that it was my own fault. Like my own fault saying, dude, you're being a lazy ass. Go figure out how to earn some money. Even if you spend 8 hours trying to figure out how to earn $1, right? I mean, what else were you going to do with the 8 hours? A lot of people say that's a waste of time. But if you can spend 8 hours learning how to make $1, spend 8 hours learning how to make $2, and then 4, and then 8, and 16. And the next thing you know, you're going to be able to spend 8 hours and make $1,000 or maybe $8,000. Who knows, right? But if you can earn $1, just go out there and figure it out. How it is that you can, I remember the first time I had a video pay $1, $10, right? I was like, $10 for a video. I'm like, whoa. Man, if I did a video every day, I could have a car payment or something. I mean, this was my attitude about it. I didn't know I would eventually get videos up to making I could have a video that would earn $100 or even $1,000 if it, got 100,000 or 200,000 views or something like that. I mean, I had no idea that was going to happen when I was making videos. Like, go out there and figure out how to make $1 and then learn how to make $2 and learn how to make $4, right? And then learn how to do it. Learn how to make money while you're sleeping. Right? If you can get that dollar while you're asleep, man, that's even better because then you can put a little bit of effort in now and then it's off there working while you're doing whatever you want. Maybe working another job or something. Yeah, definitely work overtime. Work as much as you can. Right. I'm in the South, Minnesota. Okay, that's crazy. I was in professional building at Bronson Hospital when there was that earthquake tremor about 7, 8 years ago. Let's see. It's more about not spending money. That's so true. I mean, it doesn't really matter how much money you make. It's about how much money you can save. Like earning $40,000 a year is just as good as somebody who's earning $100,000 a year. If you're earning $40,000 a year and can save $10,000 a year, where the person who's earning $100,000 a year goes into debt by $10,000 a year. Like, it doesn't matter how much money you earn. It's a matter of how much you can save. And that's really what it's going to be about. Like, you don't want to earn more, then require less. That's easy, right? I mean, there's two ways to wealth: earn more or require less. I don't know. Southfield also, 696 Telegraph Road, 10 miles, got Brigham Farms, Pack, even. And you guys must be talking. Beverly Hills, Michigan. Okay. Sorry, I disagree with you in a different way. Yes, making money is important, but sometimes your health, your mental health, family, friends are important too. Very true. Very true. Now, what's important for my family, right? Providing them with a home, food, all the energies, all the conveniences, right? Being able to do that. Now, I don't have to work as hard as I do to acquire just those things. But then I wouldn't have anything else. I would have just that. And so that's cool, like if that's what you're willing to accept, right? But what if the kids want to go to college? What if, there's something else that they want in life? Well, if you don't have the way or means of being able to acquire that, then you're just going to have to deal without. And so, is your family more important in the sense that you need to spend time with them? Or is your family more important in the sense that you need to be able to provide for them, right? Because it is definitely two different paths that you go down. There's plenty of very professional, successful men out there who have no relationship with their family because of how hard they had to work in order to acquire the things that they did to provide for their family the stable life that they got. Now, in a lot of cases, the family is very appreciative of that. But in many cases, they're not, right? And all they do is they look at their old man and they say, "You didn't care about us. All you did was care about your business. All you cared about was making money. You didn't focus in on anything." And this is the thing that some of these professional men have to deal with in order to have acquired the stable life that they provided for their family. I mean, how do you handle this, right? It's a struggle. All right. Or teach them a good trade. Yeah, absolutely. I like working 45 hours and save $500 a week and going to work 25 to 30 hours a week when I turn 50. All right. College debt trap, People would come from all over the area because you could get good quality Italian 14 karat at the $10 a gram back then. Alternative, just pick girl at character select for next incarnation. All right, back then, or women who earn the income for their families. All right, well, let me ask you something, Dawn. You want a deadbeat husband? Yeah, I mean, he might be a really super awesome dude. Very nice to you, nice to the kids, doesn't earn a dime, right? Is that something you want to support? Like, I know a lot of people out there, and very few, like, you might be different. You might be one of the few exceptional women who would be willing to support a man. But very few women I find out there would ever support a man if he didn't have a job that earned at least as much as she did, if not more, right? Very few. My wife did it for me when I wasn't working. I mean, she was tending bar. I wasn't doing anything for a couple of years. She did it for me, right? But for the most part, I had always earned more income. And most relationships I find out there, generally, the man earns more income. And if he doesn't, it's not a very happy relationship. And usually, it ends up in divorce. Now, Again, I'm not trying to, call out your specific situation or trying to generalize it, but this was what I've seen. Right? Men are the providers of a family. It's just the way it goes down. Right? Can women provide? Sure. Right? I'm not saying they can't. I'm not even trying to remotely say that. But just look out there and just look around. Right? What's the case? All right. What is enough? Uneducated economist, what is enough? How many people have to suffer to provide directly for you? What? That's the direction the world is going when your jet fuel costs more than most people make yearly. Jesus. It's okay. So what? You upset that people have more? I mean, there's always going to be people who have a hell of a lot more than other people, right? I don't look at that as like I don't look at somebody who has an incredible amount. Like they have like this ungodly amount. They could just sit there and throw $100 bills out the window and never even notice anything gone. Like, I don't look at those people as like, oh man, this is shameful. You shouldn't be doing that, or you shouldn't be there, or you're disgusting, or something like that. I don't think that way. Like, at some point in my life, I would love to just be fabulously wealthy. Like, just have all this kind of money, just be able to fly wherever I want all over the world and never once ever think about it. Right? And I certainly wouldn't want to work really hard to acquire that, to have somebody say, like, dude, you're a piece of shit for that. You know? Like, I don't look at it that way. If somebody can acquire a lot in their life, hey, good on them. They figured it out. They figured out the system. They figured out the matrix, whatever. They did it. Because a lot of us can't figure it out, well, that's our fault. That's not anybody else to blame, right? I mean, I don't look to the external to fix me, right? The Fed's my problem. The government's my problem. Interest rates are my problem. All this stuff. Everything on the outside is all my problem, right? So where do I fix my problem? I got to fix all this stuff on the external in order to fix the problems that I have. Like, you get a better job, better relationship, better, environment to be in, whatever. You fix all these things on the external, you realize you're still unhappy. Why? It's because you're trying to fix the external, right? If you fix the internal, then the external doesn't matter anymore. Like, it doesn't matter what the Fed does. It doesn't matter what governments do. I mean, obviously, if you have something like the Ukraine, you got war coming down on you or something like that, that's a very different situation to be in, right? But then you handle it that way. You handle it when you're in there. I'm not in the middle of a war, right? I'm not going to pretend like I am. I mean, some people want to pretend that. They're like, no, we are in war. We're preparing for World War III. We're preparing for all this stuff. That's, hey, cool, right? Go and live that life, man. If that's what you want to occupy your thoughts with, then, that's what you're going to have in your life. I want to occupy my thoughts with happy days, earning money, family events, stuff like that. That's the type of thing I want to occupy my mind with. I do not want to occupy it with death and mayhem. I mean, I already see that stuff enough just from the understanding of where the economy is going to head to. Like, wars don't scare me, right? Wars are active. They're happening right in front of you. What scares me is the stuff that you don't see. That mass poverty that comes that nobody understands. The food shortages that people just don't get. Like, they don't understand how it is that the grocery stores don't have food in them anymore. Or how it is that it costs so damn much that you can't even walk into the store. That security guards are protecting, the stores from people just rioting and stealing from it. That's the type of stuff that scares me. Like, a war? Like, yeah, that's possible. I mean, that can happen. It's going to be devastating if it does. But what about the stuff that you can't run away from, right? You can run away from the area. Like, I mean, it may not be something that you can run away from, or you might struggle from doing it, but it's a spot that you get away from. What if you get into where there's nowhere to run? Poverty is everywhere. Sickness, death, and mayhem, and destruction, and hunger, and all that is just completely surrounding you with no sign of relief. Right? That's the type of stuff that scares me. Not some government control, government coming down. Oh, we're going to force things on you. Eat bugs. I ain't worried about that. If you ain't rich at 50, you have freedom. If you aren't rich at 50, you have freedom. Huh. I don't think so. I think having money is freedom, right? I think especially like having cash flow, having the ability to have money coming in, not just having money, like having a safe full of money. I don't think that's really wealth. Having money flowing to you, that is, you know. All right. Mortgage means death grip. All right. Bill Gates is a criminal psychopath. Yeah, I can believe that. Work hard for your money, then have your money work hard for you. Exactly. The Matrix is an answer is make as much money as you can and then get out of the system. I'd like cavemen had no money and were far freer than we. Um, well, yeah, I mean, well, you think about it. I mean, what's wealth? Food, conveniences, pleasures of life. That's wealth, right? Then what's freedom? Well, the ability to do whatever you want, right? To be able to travel, to be able to, express yourself, to say whatever you want, right? To create art, whatever. That's freedom. So I think about it, like if you have a job, well, you've already cut a bunch of your freedom, at least 8 hours of the day you've cut out of your freedom, right? But you get, you kind of trade it, you get some money for it, so it's kind of like a swap, right? Well, then you buy a house. Well, that's no freedom because now, you got to make payments on this house or taxes on the house or maintenance on the house. So that's not really freedom owning a house. I mean, even though it's nice and convenient, so it's kind of wealth, but it's not really freedom. Right? So I think, like, what is it that really is free? Like, I don't feel free. I feel like required. Like, being required isn't free. Now, if I see a homeless person walking down the Riverwalk here with no real place to go, well, they got ultimate freedom, right? I mean, there is nobody telling this dude what to do. He can go wherever he wants. He can do whatever he wants with his day. He's got absolute ultimate freedom, right? But I don't necessarily want to live homeless. So, what is freedom? And freedom is what you have when you take no security, right? Freedom and security, they're like kind of opposite from each other. I want a lot of heavy equipment like skid steers and excavators. I want a bunch of that stuff just so I can play around on it. I can go driving around and digging the dirt and stuff. I think that would just be fun to have. All right. Living in a cave sucked. Yeah. A fool and his money are soon parted. Coal too. All right. That's a good way of thinking about it as a spectrum between security and freedom. Yeah. Freedom is just another word for nothing left to lose. That's it. Land of the free, home of the slaves. Bears do it. Land of the fee. Yeah, that's it, Lord. Land of the fee. Money is happiness. Give me lots of it and I'll prove you wrong. Yeah, I don't think money is happiness. There's no, that's so true. That is not the same thing. Um, Money is not something that is going to buy you the happiness, right? Like a lot of people, again, that's like the external, right? If I can get the car, if I can get the money to get the car, if I can get the money to get the car to get the girl, if I can get the money to get the car to get the girl to get the, like you got all these things that you're trying to pile up and you're putting it on this external. And it's just not, it's just not going to, it's not going to provide you with a way of being able to, it's not going to, like the money is not going to be able to provide you with a way of finding that peace and happiness that you're looking for if the peace and happiness has to come from the money. Right? You see where I'm getting at? Like if you can be happy and content without the money will give you the ability to increase your happiness, right? But you have to be happy in understanding of that ahead of time, because you can drive, man, I'm gonna earn money. I earn $100,000 a year. Oh, it wasn't enough. $200,000 a year. Still not happy. You know, it was like, okay, wait a minute, man. You did 100,000 to 200. You're still not happy. I don't think it's the money, right? You can buy more stuff, and then it kind of makes you happy for a minute, but then you end up losing it, right? It's because it's the internal. You got to fix that part of it in order for the external to be good. Yeah. All right. Prices of paper, not so much. Wonder how UBI is going to treat Brazil. It, again, like, I don't know how this UBI thing is going to impact the rest of the world or the rest of the economies out there, but I just kind of see this whole UBI thing as it's a nice little gimmick to get people interested in the central bank digital currencies, and then eventually like push everybody into it. So, and it's not like I it drives me nuts when I see like UBI being established, or UBI program or something, and then you go and you read the articles or the program, and they talk about how we're going to select a handful of people to take part in this program. Well, then that's not universal basic income, because then they're going to go and look at that group and they're going to say like, wow, look how great this group did comparatively to the people who didn't get the money. Well, no kidding. Like, you give a group of people a bunch of money every month and then ask them how well they did, they're going to be like, dude, it was awesome. And of course, you're going to have like this comparison that's going to be like way better than the people who didn't get it. The only problem with it is that you can't do a comparative of UBI where you take a select group of people, give that to them, and then compare it to people who didn't get it. UBI is everybody. That means you have to see what happens when you give the rich the money too, right? Because that's universal basic income. Otherwise, it's segregated basic income and pretty much welfare, right? I mean, happiness is knowing when you have enough and savoring it while you have it. And that's it too. I mean, like, even like, just struggling with some of the things in my life, like wanting the new car, right? Like, I really want a new car. I would love to drive around in a new Camaro, just looking cool as shit in my new Camaro, right? I would love to have that in my life. But I can't do it because I can't see myself spending that kind of money on a Camaro when I have so many more important things to do. Like, I got other things that are more important than buying a new Camaro, right? So the Camaro is like one of the last things on my list of things that I'm going to buy. And, for some people, like, having a YouTube channel that brought in some money, the Camaro was the first thing that they would have gotten. Like, to me, it's like the last thing on my mind, but I like to have it in my imagination because it's kind of like a goal. Like, it's like sometime in the future, I will have worked hard enough to go out and acquire that Camaro. All right. UBI has no effect on the wealthy. That's so true. It doesn't. So why call it universal basic income? Why don't they just call it poverty income? Why don't they just call it like for what it is? We need to give money to the poor people so that we stop becoming so damn rich, right? How about that? That's another way of saying it. All right. I can look good. Look and good. Okay, I can look good with 9,000 rounds. I can look and good. Huh. All right. What are you eating for dinner? I don't know. I'm gonna be heading home here in a little bit, and I'll find out. All right. Hey UE, how many miles does your Toyota have? 165,000. Yeah, 165, 166, I think it is now. Just call UBI socialism. Steak. Yeah. Well, we did. Let's see. My parents just gave me their Traeger. They got a new barbecue, and they gave me their smoker Traeger. We actually cooked a tri-tip on it the other day. It was pretty good. I like my grill. I like my Weber grill. Charcoal grill is by far the best way that I like to cook meats. But the Traeger was good. It had good flavor to it. So, you know what money truly is? You are richer than 98% of the world. Yeah, and that's true. once you understand the difference between money and currency, and then you understand that currency was not meant to be a store of value, it starts making a lot more sense on why it is that you don't hold on to dollars, right? You transfer it into something else, gold, silver, stocks, real estate, whatever it is. Because the dollars that we use today was never meant to be a store of value. It was meant to be currency, to transfer my ability to, perform work into a commodity or an item that I could have for my trade of work. And the only way to really do that is to have some sort of currency. Silver and gold would make great currencies, right? I mean, it's even better because then you actually have a commodity of actual true value that you can trade back and forth. The only problem with using gold and silver is that there's not enough of it in a continuous supply. Excuse me. And so what you end up with is the boom and bust cycles that come with it, which is just fine if you're prepared to deal with that. But most people aren't. Like, they think the good times are just always going to roll, not knowing that there is going to be a bust cycle to things. With gold and silver as the currency, there's only a limited amount. And so as the commerce is taking place, that gold and silver starts concentrating into the hands of just a few, until eventually there's not enough commerce out there to do business, and then boom, all that wealth goes redistributing back out to the economy again. And this is the way the business cycle was working. And so, like, understanding that and how they transfer from having gold and silver, real money, as currency to actually having fiat as currency. Gold and silver are still money, right? But fiat is not. There's a difference inside of that, because money is a store of value. Fiat is a currency. Money can be currency, but not all currency can be money. Did I get that right, Lord? All fiat currencies return to intrinsic value of zero. Voluntary? Still don't think there will never be a default, Simon. Yeah, I don't think there'll ever be a default. I think a default on U.S. Treasuries, right? Now, again, I mean, just because you're paid in a worthless currency doesn't mean that it defaulted. I mean, it might technically default in the sense that you don't have any purchasing power and that it's worthless and that there's no point in doing it anymore. But the actual technical default, like you don't get paid on your treasury, I don't think that'll happen. I think you will always get paid on the treasury. Whether or not it purchases anything with your pay, that's another story. I'm not saying that. But as far as the defaulting on the treasuries, I don't think that'll ever happen, ever, right? I think the fiat currency would fail long before that, and nobody would even care about treasuries at that point, I mean, if that was to be the case, like the loss of confidence, that was there. I still don't see how the U.S. Treasuries will default. Like, I don't see it. Nobody will work for a worthless currency. That's so true, but they do. They do it right now. But they do. That's the thing. If you can transfer your currency, no matter how worthless it is, if you can transfer it from your skills to a product, that's the only thing that matters. It doesn't matter how much they print or how much value it has. None of that stuff. So long as you can do that transfer, that All right. My wife had a 1993, I believe, Toyota Paseo with a tiny 4-cylinder, and she sold it to a friend when it had 220,000 miles in it. Yeah, this one, I mean, it runs great. It gets great gas mileage. I mean, it is not much to look at. It's been beat up pretty good. The headliner's falling off. The seats are all stained with coffee and who knows back there. I mean, I don't know who had this car before me, but, the thing runs great. And that's the important part of it, is just to be able to have something that's reliable that gets you from point A to point B. After that, what's the point? Like, why? I mean, other than... the only thing that I could say would be the point of is if you spent a lot of time in your car, like you drove, distance every day or, every week or something, you were driving a lot. Well, then I can understand having a nice car, because then you'd want something that's comfortable because you're spending a lot of time in your vehicle. That makes sense. I think the longest drive I make in my car is 20 minutes. Like, I can handle anything for 20 minutes. Like, I don't even need the radio, So, all right. Fiat is just a medium of exchange. Yet nobody will work for worthless. Okay, Turkey. Okay, the bond market will implode, taking treasuries to worthless status. It could. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to. It's yes, that can happen. Absolutely, Lord, you are right on that. I'm just trying to envision how it is that that's going to take place. Like, what is it that people are doing at the time? Like, look at the U.S. Treasuries is the safe and liquid asset, right? Out of everything in the entire world, I don't care if it's gold or food or whatever. There's like one thing out there that everybody looks at as the safe and liquid assets, the U.S. Treasuries. Banks hold it, corporations hold it, people hold it. Everybody has these U.S. Treasuries backing up everything, right? It's the item, right? The collateral to have. So I have to think like everybody getting rid of it, like everybody getting out of the U.S. Treasuries. And then when you see about it, when you see these stories, like China's dumping all their U.S. Treasuries, I think about that. It's just like, are they really dumping U.S. Treasuries, or are they trying to get a hold of dollars, right? Because that's the easiest way to get dollars is to sell Treasuries. I mean, really, if you didn't like Treasuries and you didn't want them anymore, just let them mature. Just let them mature, get them cash and spend it. Like, why sell them? Like, a lot of times when you're selling them, what you end up doing is you're causing the yields to rise and the price to fall. So what's the point of that? There isn't, unless you're trying to get a hold of the cash because you need the dollars. And that's the easiest way to do it. So I don't know. Like, as far as that idea that there's going to be a default on the U.S. Treasuries, I don't see it. Like, I mean, is it possible? Yeah. How do you prepare for that if you don't see it? Like, you don't see the people behaving in a way that's going to cause that to happen. Like, I could see how it could happen, and I could see where there's evidence of people who are trying to make it happen. But as far as the reality of it actually happening, it's not. Like, the U.S. Treasuries are, dropping in price and the yields are going up, but you also have to think that the Federal Reserve is no longer part in the game, right? So are yields just finding where they should naturally be without market manipulation coming from the Federal Reserve? Maybe, right? I mean, there's still plenty of manipulation taking place, but what is the Federal Reserve doing? They're using the free market to try and fix the problem, right? They're backing away from screwing around with it. Basically, the Federal Reserve is moving more to a position of sitting on their hands, saying, hey, we're just going to let this stuff start rolling off and we're not going to be buying any of it, and the market is going to have to start figuring out where the interest rates should be. I mean, I'm not saying the market is doing that, because there's still plenty of manipulation taking place from the Federal Reserve, but all I guess I'm getting at is that what their efforts are doing is they're using the free market to try and fix the problem, right? If they were actually actively like dumping all their treasuries, like, hey, get rid of all this stuff on our balance sheet at one time, and then causing the flood of treasuries to get out there and the prices to go to, into the toilet and the yields to rise. If there was something actively taking place like that, then I could say, okay, well, the Federal Reserve is screwing around in that kind of market manipulation, right? Because that's the way it would be. But right now, they're pretty much really trying to figure out where it is that the markets want these interest rates. Like, you think about it, they've been lifting interest rates on the Fed funds rate for, almost a year now, over a year. And mortgage rates peaked out back in October, right? But yet the Fed funds rates keep ticking up. So why is it the mortgage rates went flat, but the Fed funds rates keeps ticking up? I mean, we've been talking about this for quite some time on this channel, right? It's because of the pool of buyers out there who are willing to participate in the mortgage-backed security market. Now, everybody thought the Federal Reserve is the only buyer of mortgage-backed securities, but that's not the truth, right? There are investors out there who do want to have mortgage-backed securities on their portfolio. I mean, you think about it, most people make their mortgage payment. So if they're making their mortgage payment, the chances of these mortgage-backed securities going into default, not as likely. Like, yeah, back in the day when we had all these toxic mortgage-backed securities in the system, there was a big threat of that, but not so much today. So at some point, those mortgage-backed securities start dropping in price because the Fed is unloading theirs off their balance sheet and everybody's scared of the market. Nobody wants to participate in it. And those mortgage-backed securities start to fall. Those bond prices come down, and all of a sudden the yields get to a point where the investor's like, that's it. That's where I'm at. Like, I can participate in this game. and the yields find their cap, right? Mortgage rates go up this high, and that's as far as they go because the investors are pouring in. I mean, it's free market pretty much fixing that game. And I'm not trying to say it's the free market totally fixing it. I'm just saying the Federal Reserve is using the free market to fix that game, you know? All right. There is a sea of toxic mortgage-backed securities still floating around in the world. Oh, I can believe that. Yeah, but I mean, you got to think like, has there been a production of mortgage-backed securities like there was back in 2005 to 2007, 8? Or is there a lot more, you know, higher criteria to get the loans? Like the production of mortgage-backed securities, producing mortgage-backed securities isn't as likely. Like I'm not saying there isn't mortgage-backed securities that are toxic out in the system. I mean, that's very, very true. I mean, the only difference between a non-toxic and a toxic mortgage-backed security is whether or not people are making their payments on it. So the moment that unemployment rises, all these viable mortgage-backed securities could turn toxic right away. So, but that's not in the system right now. We're still waiting to see that happen. Hey, thank you very much. Not your problem for the $4.99. Very cool. Pretty chill night in Oregon. I hope you are doing well. Never change. I'm trying to buy a decent beater car, but no luck so far. Yeah, the decent car market or a decent beater car market pretty much went out the window when the used car prices shot through the roof. I paid $500 for this car a couple of years ago, and so I mean, I think I got my money's worth out of it. I bought an S10 for $1,200, which was a little bit higher than I would normally like to pay. Like $1,000 is usually my limit on a vehicle. But I figured, okay, if I can get a year out of the truck, I'll get my money out of it. Because I figure $100 a month. Like, that's like if you buy a $500 car, expect it to last 5 months, right? If you get 5 months out of it, hey, that's pretty cool. I mean, $100 a month to drive a car around, that's a pretty decent price. So, I mean, I know a lot of people might disagree with that, but for me, hey, that's not too bad. $100 a month for a car. So I had the S10, paid $1,200 for it. I've had it a little over a year. Hey, pretty cool. I got my two vehicles that I drive around, paid $1,700 for the two of them. This one craps out, or if that one craps out, I got the backup, because when you're driving a POS, you need a backup. All right. Hi there, guys. TV farm bought at auction hasn't. Farm bought at auction hasn't. Huh. All right. I bought them for my parents, and they bought them for me 9.2. Okay. Nothing has changed since 2008 great financial crisis. Oh, Lord, come on, man. There's a lot of things that have changed. We can't say nothing has changed. There's a lot of changes. All right. I don't understand that either. I didn't understand that either. Okay. All right. Locally, you need an easy 4K to find, not your problem. All right. Do you think semiconductor industry is overinflated? Overinflated in which way? The semiconductor, when they came up in short supply and they started ramping up production, I said it's only a matter of time before you're going to see a glut of semiconductors hitting the market. And I think that's starting to happen now. Especially when you start bringing the domestic manufacturing of semiconductors back to the United States. Like, it's going to take a while for that to, you got to establish the plant to build them, By the time they get that thing up in operation, ain't nobody going to be caring about, the domestic supply of semiconductors. They're all going to be buying cheap semiconductors from Vietnam or wherever they're being made, Do you think the semiconductor industry is overinflated? Okay, so let's see. A dog's lifetime, maybe. These guys must be talking. Let's go find another question here. Did I? Oh, yeah, I got that one. All right, let me go back up here. Not many new cars I would want anymore, but plenty of collector cars. Yeah. All right. We are in the last leg up of a long dated bonds. Whoever listens to this guy is completely lost and deserves what they get when she leaves. Okay, spiritual health and awareness. Whoever listens to this guy is completely lost and deserves what they get when she leaves. Um, I don't know what that's supposed to mean, but I tell you what, since you don't like being here, how about we just get rid of you then? Oh, darn it. I can't bring you up. I like it when people call me an idiot or something. I just, I mean, I used to do it a lot more, but, people was just like worthless information, total losers, nobody should listen to them. And I just boot them off the channel. It's just like, well, you didn't want to be here anyway, so, you know. I don't have any problems with anybody saying anything. Like, you can say whatever you want. Like, I don't care. But if you're just going to just blatantly insult me, and just call me names and stuff like that, and you don't have any kind of input to provide, I mean, you can call me an idiot all you want, but please provide some kind of information to go along with it. If all you're going to sit here and insult me, then, I mean, we don't have any use for that. Any thoughts on universal basic income timeline? It's already happening. So if you're waiting for it to start, it's starting. It started already. It's already been started. The only problem with it is that all these universal basic income pilot programs, they're not real. They're not real UBI. They're just like, glorified versions of welfare. I mean, it's not what I would consider UBI. So, as far as the timeline goes, I think it's already taken place. It's just a matter of more time and pressure before it finally engulfs the entire people. Like, there might be people who just don't even participate in any of the UBI or central bank digital currencies for a long time after everybody else has already converted over. I mean, they still might find their ways of, figuring out how to work through it. But yeah, as far as the timeline, I think it's happening now. All right, Lord Humongous, I wish I was more financially sound in 2008. Yeah, Simon, you are not an idiot. Well, thank you, Lord. You are smart in many ways. Well, I appreciate that, Lord Humongous. I think we have a lot of respect for one another. I mean, I think so anyway. I've always appreciated all your comments that you have put here on the channel, and you've been here for a long time, so yeah, you go way back. You're like one of the originals. Do you work any overtime? Well, no, I don't work overtime for my company because I really don't get offered overtime over there. I mean, occasionally we will get it, but he does a pretty good job of staffing the store, so we don't really have like overtime. Occasionally, like, there might be somebody who's out of the office or something and you need to cover shifts or something like that. But no, I don't really work overtime. But then I do work when I'm out of work. Like, so when I'm off of work, like my day job, I immediately go to work, like either figuring out the next video or coming out here doing a video or, answering an email or trying to set up an interview or doing something. So I immediately go right to work as soon as I'm off of work. And then, yeah, so like I work overtime, but it's just not for my company. It's just I just work all the time as much as I can. All right. Thoughts on the feds trying to break up big tech companies? I mean, in my opinion, anytime that the government starts to get involved in something like that, they end up creating issues that, like the unforeseens, the cause and effects from things. When you see like companies getting into an area of monopolizing, say for example, and like all of a sudden they're buying up everything and they're in control of all of it. It's hard to not see the justification inside of like, breaking up that monopoly. It really is. And whether or not it's a good or bad thing, I mean, I guess that's up to, your own personal, choice in the matter. I personally like, a lot of people say you don't have choices. If they have a monopoly on it, you don't have any other choice. You just have to use it or whatever. And I disagree with that. Like, I think that no matter what it is, you could figure out a way to get around it. And if the people didn't appreciate the monopoly, well, then they together could, I mean, I don't know how it is that you're supposed to organize it, but they have the capabilities of getting together and boycotting that particular industry or that company or whatever, and then cure the monopoly itself, right? Just simply by not using it. Again, like a lot of people are like, well, what about these particular cases or something like that, right? Whatever. I mean, I'm not trying to like, argue one particular case or not. I'm just saying that if the people recognized it and they understand that there's a monopoly taking place, there is something called a boycott that could take place and it could cure the monopoly. So you don't need government. Like I personally don't want government involved in anything. Period. Like, I don't want them involved in my life. I don't want them involved in anything that I do. The only thing I really want government to do, if I was to, like, say, what kind of government would you want? I want them to handle the commerce between states and the national defense. And outside of that, I don't think they should have all the personal things that happen with, like, Roe versus Wade or whatever. All that's, I think that is not something that the government should be involved in. That should be a state issue. Like, if you don't like your state, go to another state. Go to a state that you approve of, right? If you want a type of community that you want to be involved in, go find that state, right? Because you can create that. That's the beauty of this country, is like each one of us within the state can have a little country of our own, right? I mean, obviously you're part of the bigger nation or whatever, but you can have laws and you can have lifestyles and you can have changes that are different from other states, because that's the glory of having the Constitution that we do, is that it gives states powers, and then it gives the individual power. It gives local community powers, right? And nobody like takes advantage of these powers or understands what these powers really are, and how like each and every single one of us is like our own country, right? We're our own sovereign nation ourselves. And if you looked at it that way, and if people appreciated it in that fashion, we could really get government out of our lives in a lot of ways. But everybody relies on them. They're like, oh no, we need government to step in and do all these things for us, and protect us and punish those and, do all these things. And we keep requiring government to do this stuff for us. And then pretty soon we're like, man, we don't like government having all this intrusion on us. And it was like, well, the people practically begged for it. So yeah, if I could figure out a way to get government completely out of my life, I would. Like, I've said it before, I am an anarchist at heart. Like, I would much rather the people, govern themselves than to have a government entity trying to tell us how to live. Hey, thank you very much. Well, I'm not going to say your name because I don't want to be it out there all loud for the algorithm to get mad at me on, but I really appreciate you joining the channel there. Here, let me just go. F by the dip, effing by the dip. Really appreciate you joining the channel, man. That's very cool of you. Our good, humble dude, good family, man, keeping the great content, brother. Thanks, man. This is good stuff here. Let's see. Big tech will continue to get crushed by put options if you want to capitalize. Well, there you go. Lord, I would definitely trust Lord's opinion on that. I mean, dude definitely knows what he's talking about. All right. Greetings from BC, Canada. Heard on the news that the new housing starts are at a record low for year. No surprise, as costs are up, mortgage rates are up, and supply is slow. Yep, that's exactly right. The housing starts, that's the gap in production that I keep talking about, and how this builder sentiment is starting to increase. Is it positive yet? No, but it's moving closer. I mean, it was at 31, now it's at 42. That sentiment is the biggest increase in 10 years. So we have to think at some point that's going to go positive, and when it does, the demand for new construction is just going to, I mean, in my opinion, it's just going to skyrocket. I mean, there's hardly anything starting right now. So if they get into a position in which that they feel confident or positive about things, man, it's going to explode, right? I mean, with so few starts taking place, I could just imagine that, man, that would just drive a lot of starts. All right. Let's see. Uneducated Economist. You're getting to the level where you can make a living off your channel. Is your current job paying you that much? Where do you think the future lies for you? Well, thanks. Okay, at times the channel has paid enough for me to live off, like it matched my income. The only thing is like I I don't know when the next like run up in lumber and people are going to come flying to my channel is going to be, right? So for the last year and a half, 2 years, as lumber prices were really running up, I mean, I had a lot of activity coming to the channel. And so when you put out a video that gets, 50,000, 80,000, 100,000 views or something, well, they're going to pay you a lot more than if you're putting out a video that gets 10,000 views, right? So, I mean, if I could guarantee that I had an income of a certain amount, then yeah, I would be more confident in like saying, hey, I can, leave my job, like leave my day job and just focus in on doing this. But even though I put out the same amount of effort, no matter what, the what I get out of it is very very different, and so like what I can guarantee as far as an income is not possible when I have a YouTube channel. Like I can guess, I can say, well, if I put out good videos, I might get to this kind of level. But then, like over the last couple of months when the YouTube algorithm changed, and like I mean I get like all my regular viewers, I get plenty of those guys, but as far as getting the new viewers, like I can see in my analytics, how many new viewers I get, and it's not nearly what it was. So YouTube is not grabbing my videos and sending them out there to be viewed by other people. It's so like, what do you do about that? I mean, I got to do something with my videos to get the algorithm to pick it up. Maybe it's a little bit longer video, maybe it's better thumbnails, maybe it's, I don't know. Like, I don't know what it is that I need to do, but I can't guarantee what that income is. And so therefore I can't guarantee that I can, get the incomes enough to quit my job. What's the next step? I mean, I don't know. Like, I really need to do something because I feel the channel has gone stagnant. I would like to do more speaking engagements. In fact, I've been invited just recently, but it was like the timing of it was so it just wasn't very conducive. Like it had to have been so done in such haste, and I'm like, man, what am I gonna go down there and speak, and then what do I speak about? It was like it didn't even have to do with like lumber. He was just wanting me to talk general economic stuff. So I'm like, I want to, but I'm not like really prepared for it. So I guess really I have to be like more confident to just jump on a speaking engagement. Like if somebody says, dude, I want you to go and speak for an hour somewhere, to just say, yeah, I'll do it, and then be able to like actually do that. But that's really where I would like the channel to go, is to try and get into more like, you know, actual speaking engagements, go and do like, maybe like some sort of like workshop kind of thing, where, we could like break down, I don't know, repo facility stuff, or just talk about like a particular aspect of the economy and just really kind of, just focus in on that kind of thing. That sounds like a lot of fun. And then I I mean, I've only said it 4,000 times over the last 4 years that I would like to write a book, but I have a hard time even reading a book. Like it's difficult for me to just sit there and start typing out words that it's just like it's not something I'm in the habit of doing. It's not familiar to me. So I need to start doing that. Like I just need to like literally say, okay, you're going to go and type. It doesn't matter what you type, for like an hour, right? And just type for an hour straight, so I can just become familiar with being somebody who types words out. Like once I do that, then I think I could probably get the book to start flowing a little easier for me. But anyway, I don't know. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do with the channel. All right. See, Julian, thank you so much for joining the channel. You guys are so awesome. All right. I think a lot of people got market fatigue. Yeah. Face tattoos and hot tub streams. I don't know. I don't think I could do face. I could do tattoos, but I don't want to do a face tattoo. Thank you. I always watch this channel, subbed 13,000 subscribers. Wow, man, you're way back there. Thank you so much, man. That's the effing by the dip. All right. You can hire me, UE, as your advisor. Yeah, I do have a guy that I've been chatting with over the last couple of months. He's a really good dude. And he's been giving me some coaching. And I really appreciate it too, because it's really kind of what I needed. And it's hard when you don't know somebody personally, like you only communicate through emails or through a chat like that. It's hard to like whether or not you can actually trust somebody. But I've been talking with this dude, and he seems pretty good. As far as like a genuine person. So yeah, I need some advisor. I need advice. That's it. I was talking with a friend today. He is a councilman and said it's difficult for people to get approval for water taps. Our infrastructure could seriously hinder our growth. Yeah, I know. Like there's an area here in the county for the longest time that had like a moratorium on new construction because they didn't have enough water. Like the main water line going into the area was not sufficient enough, so they had to increase the size of the water line, and then they were able to start putting in more houses. Uh, Buddy, Rich Dad Poor Dad author used a co-author. Nobody even knows that and works great. Yeah, just get someone to put your words in a book. Yeah, I could. I have a hard time letting other people do that kind of thing for me. Um, Although hiring a writer would probably be a smart idea because then they would actually make it so people would enjoy reading it. But I've always had a hard time like letting other people do something like that because like if I write a book and I tell people, hey, I wrote this book, I really want to be able to say I wrote this book. If I didn't do it and somebody else did, I know that in my heart that I would have to say, hey, I had this book written. Like it's just it's just the way I would feel about it. So I think if I did write a book, I mean, I would have to be very involved in the writing of that book. Like I would have to do it. Um, I don't know. All right. When Robert is talking, I wonder how he even wrote a book. um, I met Robert Kiyosaki. I had a nice, I don't know, probably a half-hour long, 40-minute long conversation with him. Dude is super cool. He's not, he was not nearly like the person that I saw on stage. Like I remember when I went to Houston for the Rebel Capitalists, I went on at 9 o'clock in the morning. Robert went on at 8. He was on at 8 o'clock in the morning, and he had the crowd screaming, just cheering loud. I mean, I could not believe how much energy was coming out of the room at 8 o'clock in the morning from this guy, right? And it was intense. And then when I didn't speak to him that time, but then when we went to Miami, I sat and talked with him for a while. And when I talked with Robert, I was like really anticipating that I was going to get the guy that was on stage, the guy that you see on camera, all that. It wasn't. He was a very chill dude, very mellow, very like calm and like cool, collected, not extreme or like wild sounding by any means. I mean, we talked about like canning and farms and like having like agriculture, like self-sustaining agriculture stuff. We were like talking like really just kind of like general people. And yeah, I found like found him to be quite pleasant person to be around. When I saw him on stage, I didn't think that. Like I'm like, holy moly, this guy's intense, right? But then hanging out with him, it was completely different. He was a very chill dude. Hey, not your problem. Thank you so much for the $1.99. I enjoyed the UE Talk series. Yeah, I do too. Doing those interviews has been just a lot of fun. And I'm surprised that they're not more popular. I mean, hell, the Ken McElroy one, I don't even think that one got 4,000 views. And there was a lot of really good information in that video. But I really enjoy doing the interviews. Like, you know, um, I mean, I don't even know how many I've done now, 7 or 8 of them or so. And, you know, being able to, like email Ken and then him respond like, absolutely, dude, I'd love to be on your show. That was so like, it feels good. It feels like, I don't even know, like validating or something. Like, I'm not sure what the word is for it, but, like having Peter, like I had never met Peter before the interview. Like I was like so excited. Like I'm like, holy moly, this is a guy I've been following like 15, 20 years, and finally I get to meet him and talk to him. And I like all day before the interview, I was like nervous. I mean, I'm thinking, oh God, I'm gonna talk to him. What am I gonna ask him? Am I gonna like, just sound like an idiot when I'm talking to this guy or whatever? And then as soon as the meeting started up and I started talking, it was cool. It was just like I wasn't nervous. I was totally like, just having a conversation with them. And I wish I mean I would do that every day. Like I would do those type of interviews every day if I could, because that is by far probably the funnest videos that I do. Is talking with other people and doing the interviews. But yeah, I don't know. Anyway. Uh, Lord Humongous, I should put the safe in my basement and say I found it when I moved here on Reddit. Talking about how you got all the. All right. Robert loves leverage. It's treated him well. Yeah, that's for sure. All right. Hey, UE, did George invite you to the Rebel Capitalist Conference this year? No, I didn't get invited down this year. I mean, we had talked about it a little bit in Miami. But no, I didn't get invited on this one, but that's okay. I mean, there's plenty of other conferences. I could have flown down there and, at least, been there and hung out with them. But as far as like, getting invited to be a speaker or something like that, not this time. Maybe next time. All right. I feel like the U.S. will keep rates high for a geopolitical weapon. Yeah, I mean, I guess if you look at it through the currency wars kind of aspect of things, yeah, I could really see where the United States could pretty much destroy the world by increasing the dollar strength. I mean, really, United States can be a self-sufficient country. I mean, we don't really have the capabilities the way we're set up right now to do it. Just because I think we import so much stuff from around the world, but I mean, we have the ability and we have the capabilities of being self-sufficient, and the rest of the world kind of relies on the U.S. dollar. So if we ever did if we ever wanted to, we could destroy the world with currency. Just make the dollar so damn strong that they can't acquire it, and everybody who had taken out a debt in dollars outside of the United States would ultimately be destroyed. And so you're talking sovereign nations, corporations, all kinds of places, all kinds of people. So yeah, I mean, I think the United States could destroy the world by, with just the currency. The only problem with doing that is that they would end up destroying the currency itself, because people would be like, you know what, we're never touching that stuff again. So, I mean, would they end up like, how do they say that? Cut off their nose to spite their face? All right. What will plunge the mortgage market collapse? That will plunge the mortgage market collapse. Rates will go in higher, making no mistake. Well, I mean, I could see where mortgage rates would go higher, but that will plunge the mortgage market collapse. I don't know. Maybe I'm misunderstanding there. All right. Hi there, guys. TV. Yep. Okay. Yep. And the two main people not playing are Russia and China. How long have we been out here? 2 hours, 40 minutes. My goodness, guys. How much power do I got left on my phone? All right. Okay, well, I'll probably give it another 10 minutes here, guys, because I am going to be heading out here. Yeah, around 8 o'clock or so. It's getting late. All right, emerging markets will lead in the fear. I don't know what you're trying to put there. All right, smash the like peeps. Yes, please do so. Okay, why would the build chip factories in the U.S.? Isn't it cheaper in other countries? Yeah, they were going to build these damn chip factories here in the U.S. for national security reasons, right? Because we need our own domestic supply of the semiconductors, because all the ones that are made in foreign countries are tainted with spyware. I don't know. They have like this idea that they need a national domestic supply of semiconductors, and they're willing to produce these things at any cost for national security reasons. Now, again, like, it's not going to be profitable, and so if that's the case, then you will have always a case of government subsidies or duties or something that's going on that will have to create an environment in which that the semiconductors coming into the country will be just as expensive as the domestic suppliers. I don't think that's a good idea. I mean, national security reasons, I think it's a great idea, but economically, that's a terrible idea. It's a terrible idea. Actually, the numbers for 2023 are looking quite good. I'm out. Good night, everyone. Keep attacking. Alrighty, Lord. You have a great night. Alright. Actually, okay, where am I here? Mass produce them and become a global producer. Well, you can't, because there's no way that you can mass produce them cheaper than China or Vietnam or whoever. Like, it doesn't matter. Anywhere other than the United States is probably going to produce those semiconductors cheaper. And so therefore, trying to produce enough of them here in the United States that is going to flood the market with cheap semiconductors is impossible. I don't know how that would be possible. Like, the labor cost, the location, everything that costs more in the United States to produce them than it would be in another nation. So you can produce all of them you want, it doesn't make it any cheaper, right? You know. All right. The government, if stopping the prices from falling by helping people with food and fuel, rent, ridiculous. At least we try. Robots, robots, robots. All right. Uneducated Economist, 24-hour live stream. I'll buy McDonald's coffee in the morning. Also, look at Foxconn failed project in Wisconsin. Wages are too high here. Yeah, God, man, a 24-hour, I mean, 3 hours is already a lot. Why? Okay, we already went through that one. I'm seeing if I missed any questions here. I think we're getting towards the end of our evening here. All right, I have enjoyed your channel for a couple of years now, and it's not always doom and gloom. Our real economy has tried to correct itself for years. Now the government has played Wall Street versus Main Street. Yeah, that's for sure. Do you think that at some point in the future, YouTube will become something else or maybe non-existent anymore? Yeah, I mean, I guess it could eventually. I mean, YouTube has changed quite a bit over the last, 15, 20 years, however long it's been out. I mean, there's a lot of changes that are happening to it. I think more influencers and the ability to be on YouTube as an influencer is becoming, like, a much more popular trending kind of thing to do. I've been trying to encourage people to do this for a long time, but it's hard to get people to be motivated and to stay true to a channel. I mean, it's hard enough to just do it yourself. You can't get anybody else to do it. But I could see where, like, things like YouTube or being an influencer or just even just sharing products, online, is going to be a much more palatable way of receiving information and, you know, advertisements and stuff, just because people are so tired of like the mainstream commercialized stuff that they really want to get information and ideas and stuff from like real people. Like they're done with the fake. So that's where YouTube and platforms like YouTube are really, you know, a benefit to it, because like now all of a sudden people like me have a voice. Like we never really had a voice before. We, you know, you sit there and shout from the rooftops all day long, nobody was listening. But when you can put out a video and reach the entire globe, you know, billions of people, well, you got something, right? That's something that, you know, we've never had before. I mean, you know, other than the last 20 years here, but like there was never a time where, you know, a guy like me could ever be heard, you know, like before the internet or before YouTube. So, you know, it's pretty cool. Will it change? Yeah, I think it'll evolve, but, you know, I think it's, you know, evolve into something that may be better. All right. I completely agree on Wall Street versus Main Street, but when Main Street thinks Apple is more valuable than any other company, I give up. Yeah. The upcoming internet shutdown will change everything. The U.S. cannot compete in the semiconductor market for the reasons you stated. However, it is good for the sake of maintaining supply in light of the recent global shortages. Yeah, I mean, I mean, I'm not trying to say that it's not a good idea to have it. Like, you know, I'm not trying to say that at all. I'm just looking at it from an economics point of view. You know, I was saying like if you go and start producing a bunch of semiconductors here in the United States, they're not going to be profitable, and those companies are not going to do well. Like, they're just not. You know, I mean, we can just look at the face masks. You know, the surgical masks. We have domestic manufacturers of it. Almost all of them come in from China. Hospitals buy the majority of them. When we had a huge shortage due to the mask mandates that were taking place, the domestic manufacturers had to ramp up production, and not only ramp up production but expand their facilities, hire people, equipment, whatever, because we needed a domestic supply of face masks. Well, as soon as the mask mandate came to an end and nobody was buying these masks except for hospitals, the domestic manufacturers got hit hard. I mean, they were like, shit, we're going to go out of business, you know? And so next thing you know, they're getting subsidized and whatever, because we need, for national security reasons, domestic manufacturers of surgical masks, right? But they're not a profitable company because China can make them way cheaper, you know? Do you have any recommendations for reading to learn more about macroeconomics? So again, like I wish I could offer up these books that I have read, but I have not read any books on economics. Everything that I have learned, I've learned from studying like Federal Reserve speeches, listening to lectures, just picking up information from other YouTubers or whatever. I just keep compiling this information over and over again. So I don't really have a like a library of books to say, hey, if you go read all this stuff, you'll have the information I have, because I didn't read any books. I did read The Creature from Jekyll Island, so that is definitely one that I would recommend to anybody. I mean, just anybody at all. The Creature from Jekyll Island will really open your mind to the Federal Reserve and what they're up to. You know, The Creature from Jekyll Island has been called like a conspiracy theory book or something like that. Whatever, you know. There might be some stuff that's blown out of proportion or whatever, but the bulk of the book is good information, and I mean I recommend that one to anybody. And then after you read The Creature from Jekyll Island, read Cantillon's essay on economic theory, especially the chapters of increase and decrease to money to a state. That those chapters are so telling of how the flow of money through an economy creates the separation between the rich and the poor, how it drives out domestic manufacturing, how it, you know, how once the new money turns off, everybody falls into poverty. Man, that those chapters are so informative. Like once you kind of really wrap your head around them, everything else starts really falling into place to start, you know, Like even your own personal finance. Like, you think about it. If you had a bunch of new money coming in, what would happen? Like, you get all this new money coming in. What do? You start enjoying your life, right? But you don't want to spend all this money on like, expensive items. You want the items that you enjoyed at the regular price of them. So even you yourself, if you're going to be buying these things, you're going to look for the best deals on them. And eventually, if that money turns off and you have purchased a bunch of stuff, well, what ends up happening, right? You got all this stuff and you're all, whether you bought it on debt or whatever, you start falling into economic hard times. Well, just think about the money. If you had new money pouring into your own personal finances, then all of a sudden had it turned off, what that would be like. Well, the economy is very much like that. Like, it takes years and decades for it to go through. But just think, like back in the early 60s, 50s, 60s, when we were a manufacturing powerhouse, we were producing and sending a lot of stuff out to the world. The world was sending us their dollars. So not only were we manufacturing and selling to the world, we were getting their dollars and then we were lending it back out to the rest of the world. That brought a lot of new money into this country and we really increased our standard of living from it. So these are the consequences of the new money that's coming in, is now we have to figure out all these creative ways to keep the new money pouring into the system, right? And how do you do that? Well, before it was easy. We could drop interest rates and get a bunch of people out there borrowing money to buy cars and houses and all this other stuff out there. But now it's not so easy to drop interest rates. Well, I guess the Federal Reserve got their ammo back, but over the last 15 years, it's been difficult to drop interest rates to try and stimulate the economy. So how do you get the new money in? How do you get the new money to pour into the system if people aren't borrowing it? Well, you got to go straight up into quantitative easing and just print up the money and shove it out there into the people. And then if that doesn't work, well, then you're going to have to start giving stimulus checks and UBI or whatever it is out there to get that new money into the system. The moment that the new money turns off and they stop going deep into debt, don't get me wrong, it'll be great for savers, but it's going to be devastating for everybody else. Like, most people are not in the saving mentality or understand what that would be like. Almost everybody is more on how much can I afford on these payments? That's more of the position that they're in. And so, anyhow. Okay. All right. We'll give it another 9 minutes and then we'll quit. All right. How will the interplay between increasing demand for affordable housing and potential shifts in the economic and demographic trends impact the housing market in the coming decades? Well, that's going to be really okay, so I thought about this one too, because I think a short way to kind of talk about this question is when all the old people die, isn't that going to bring a lot of inventory to the market, right? So the baby boomers die off and they don't live in the house anymore. Somebody's got to live in the house and that house has to go onto the market, right? Now, I got to thinking about this for a little bit and I'm like, no, we got a housing shortage taking place right now. People have to live somewhere, right? And now I think about how many people I know who have adult kids living with them. Think about this. This is a huge trend that's taking place right now. When the parents die, there's still people living in that house. Right? Now, whether they end up inheriting the house or buying the house or selling it off or whatever, I'm finding that more and more of the baby boomer population has adults living in their house, which means that when they pass away, there's still somebody in their house. Now, whether they find another house to live in or another apartment, all I guess I'm getting at is that that's not a freed up home, right? That's still somebody that's either needing to live there or someplace else. You kind of see where I'm getting at? So that would be the trend that I think would counter that, is that even though you do have an aging population that is going to be passing away soon, exposing more inventory to the market, I think that the trend of adults living with their adult parents or adult parents having their adult kids living with them is also growing, which would not provide that inventory coming onto the market. Did I get that right? I think I said that right. All right. There is no housing shortage. That's real estate agents' favorite lie. Lord contradicts everything I say. All right. Does the government take taxes from YouTube money? Yeah. Well, they sent me a 1099, so I got to pay tax. I mean, I guess I don't have to, but I mean, I should. they'll, yeah, I have to pay taxes on it. Affordable housing, that's a different story. Yeah. I moved back home to finish my degree. Yeah, in fact, I know a couple of people who are living with their parents right now. Not and just recently too, like within the last couple of years, they, whatever situation happened with their own life, they ended up having to come move back with the parents. I mean, even myself, like when I was at the worst, and I mean the house was like I was losing the house and all that, it was my dad who like rescued me. He's like, I'm moving out of this old country home. Why don't you move into that thing, and get your stuff together. So like it was kind of like I moved in with my dad. I mean, he wasn't there, but it was his house, and so he could have been there. I could not afford an apartment reasonably, to be honest. My boomer parents will probably give me old Miller Lite hat and a broom to clean up their mess when they die. Bummer. I just bought my family a dream home. Well, that's cool. They are all affordable and reasonable without the taxes. There is evidence to suggest that the increasing size of homes over the last 20 years have contributed to the less affordable housing market. Yeah, and I could really see that. I mean, you think about it, like, I think about all the homes that were built, like, prior to the 90s, like all the 80s, 70s, 80s, even the early 90s homes. They weren't that big. Like maybe 1,500 square feet, like 12 to 15 was like, that was like a decent home. That was like big. And now they're like, you got to have at least 2,200 square feet, or if not bigger, and big old garage and all kinds of like outdoor living spaces. And all right. Dope hat. Enjoy the hat, bro. All right. Corey Rowell, I negate that as BS right off the bat. Okay, true. I lived with my parents 2 years to save up for my house and shop. Yeah, and I know a few people who had done that, and I mean, that's pretty good parents to have. Like I don't want to get into it, but I didn't get that option. All right. I only need 300 square feet. Yeah, Lord, you know, I only need my car. I could get away with my car. Parents that let their kids live with them as adults aren't doing them any favors. They need to learn responsibility and have their own lives. Yeah, I really agree with that. But I think that if you have like an adult child living with their parents, and they are busting a move, like, this other, who was it up there who saved for 2 years? Uh, I can't even read that. Anus? I don't know how to say the name. Um, if you can hold on to the money that you are earning during the time that you were living with your parents, I mean, that's a pretty good deal. Like that's something that like I feel like parents should do. Like, hey, let me help you out with this opportunity. I mean, if we're established and you're my child, I want to like, here, let's make it incredibly hard for you to be successful at what you're doing. And then if you had 2 years that could like say maybe give you a jump into like having the ability to start business, or have like a decent cushion so that you don't end up like broke and foreclosure or something like that. I mean, I don't see any problem. I don't find that enabling, right? But if you got a drunk ass kid who's not working, who's just feeding, doing all that, then yeah, then you are definitely enabling. But somebody who's a shaker and a mover who, you know, is given an opportunity to like that, where you don't have to deal with the major expenses of living and stuff like that, to be able to save, to move out on your own, i think that's a I think that's a great deal for parents to try and offer up. I mean, there's nobody else in the world who can do that, right? Or I mean, I guess there's people who would, but not really. I mean, it's just your parents are the only people who will really ever give you that kind of opportunity to do something like that. I don't find that to be enabling. And if they're abusing drugs or alcohol or something like that, then definitely it would be, you know. All right. Okay, Simon, how do you deal with friends who just don't seem to make any progress when it comes to maturity and stuck in the 18-year-old mindset in life? I don't have any friends anymore. Okay? When I gave up all the drinking, when I gave up all the bad habits, when I gave up all the stuff, I pretty much gave up hanging out with people too. Um, you know, it's not hard to figure out that the 5 people that you surround yourself with, that's who you're going to be. All right. That's exactly who you're going to be. And so I, I, I had to, I had to go. Right. I mean, I didn't want to do that anymore. I didn't want to be the guy who drinks every day and hangs out at the bar and, you know, talks a bunch of stupid stories and stuff like that. I didn't want to be that dude anymore. Right. And, it's hard to find people that I want to be like, like, these people that I interview, these, they have billions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars and stuff. Like that's the direction I want to go. Like I don't necessarily want hundreds of millions of dollars. Like that's not the case that I want to be at. But I want to be achieving those sort of level of things. Like that's the direction I want to head to. I don't want to drive to the bar, you know? And so I don't deal with people in that fashion. Like, there's plenty of really, really awesome guys out there. There's, some really, really decent people. Um, but they're not moving, right? They're just content with what it is that they have going on. Tomorrow's not going to be any different than today. And unfortunately, I'm not there, right? I mean, I want tomorrow to be different than today. And I'm going to do something about making tomorrow a different day. Um, and it's hard to find people like that. There are a few. I work with a couple of guys who are like that. My buddy Dale, who I've tried to get him to come on the channel, but some guys, they're just not everybody wants to be on camera. So, but he's awesome, man. I mean, the guy, he invented that clam gun, for digging razor clams. It's called the Claminator. And I mean, this guy is always looking for the next deal, the next thing. And that's the type of behavior that I want to do. Is to have your mind like some dude drives up with an old truck on a trailer, right? And I'm like, wow, that's an old truck. What the hell is that thing? I mean, like we're talking like an old something from like the 40s or something. I mean, this is old, right? And Dale goes out there and he looks at that thing and he is just like, next thing you know, he's talking with the guy and he ends up buying this truck, right? He gets a really good deal on it. He takes it home, he's plugging around with it and kind of messing with it. And he's like, I think I'm going to like put the Claminator logo on this thing and then use it as an advertisement and stuff. And I'm thinking, man, this is how this guy's brain works. He is always thinking of like, how it is that he can make the next deal, how it is that he can advertise, how it is that he's going to make something happen. And then just off of that, he starts going into like welding, right? So now he has this whole business of just welding and has like all kinds of jobs that he does on that. And then he's a killer like outdoorsman, right? So he's always out there hunting and fishing and stuff like that. So he has all these people who are constantly like, hey man, let's go out fishing or whatever, and has him like operating their boat to go out to, go fishing and stuff like that. This guy, he's really lived it up. Like he figured it out how to run his life to the best of his ability to be enjoyable. And that's the type of behavior that I want to do. It's just like be able to have a lot of money, to be able to make a lot of money, to be able to really enjoy the conveniences, and then just go out there and just enjoy life. And so many people just struggle. Like they work all day and then race over to the bar so they can drink for the rest of the night. And I know I did that for a long time. I mean, that's the way I did it. My dad wanted me to know what to do with my life when I was like 10. He was tough and taught me a lot. It was the best thing that ever happened, I figured out as an adult. Um, Yeah. I mean, I think at 10 years old, you probably shouldn't pick a direction. I think that at 10 years old, like even if you were really good at at a particular talent or something like that, that may not be the passion that drives you for the rest of your life, you know? I think at 10 years old, I think you should be given a lot of opportunity to try a lot of stuff. Um, to see where it is that you find that is going to be your true passion, because like you can have a parent that drives you into law, like you become a lawyer because he's a lawyer, mom's a lawyer, grandpa was a lawyer, and they push you into law and you go and you get this law degree and you make a bunch of money doing law and you think, man, I hate practicing law. Like, yeah, I make a lot of money, yeah, my family's happy with me, everybody, like, but I don't like doing this. And they made me make this decision when I was a teenager, right? So what good is that? I mean, does that provide you with the life that you truly wanted? I mean, maybe it did. I don't know. But to me, like, if you could like truly just discover your passion and then pursue that, well, then you're gonna have a happy life on that. Like, I wandered around for 40 years trying to figure out what it is. Like, I was good at carpentry. I could build stuff, and I'm thinking, well, maybe I'm a carpenter. That's what I was supposed to do. I like building homes. Yeah. And then I started doing YouTube videos and I found, man, I really enjoy doing this. And I really enjoy being on stage. And I really enjoy like entertaining. That's what I want to do. Like I like building houses, but I don't want to build houses. I want to do this. This is what I want to do. And I didn't know it. Like I didn't even know it until 5 years ago, and I mean, I kind of had this idea, it was like, wow, that seems like fun. I like calling bingo. It'd be neat to be on stage someday. But I didn't have that going on, never had until this, right? And so, if I had discovered this a long time ago, who knows where I would have been. But then again, we don't know until it happens. All right. I know lawyers applying at McDonald's. Some doctors too. He was starting to ask me if I knew what I wanted to do when I was 10 because he wanted me to figure out the the direction. Yeah. But again, like, if you had asked me when I was 10 what I wanted to do, I would have told you I wanted to be in the military. Right? I mean, that's what I would have told you. In fact, I probably actually had plans at one point to join the military, like as, 12 or 13 years old or something like that. Like that was an actual thought. I mean, all the men in my family, including my little everybody in my family is military. Like everybody. I'm the only one who really didn't join. Like I'm like one of the few males in my family who didn't go into the military, right? So I thought that was my destination. In fact, I think my family thought that was for me too. But by the time I got to 16 years old, and I'm thinking, I don't get really good grades, and I can shoot a rifle really well, like really well. Yeah, there's only one job I'm going to get if I go into the military, and I am not about that. I am not about doing that. So I didn't join because I didn't want to do that. Like I didn't want to go in that kind of direction. That wasn't for me. Um, and that's what I thought carpentry was it. Like I was thinking, well, I'm pretty good at, putting houses together and stuff, and so that's what I'm going to do. But I didn't know. Like I didn't know at 10 years old I did not know I was going to end up doing carpentry and YouTube stuff. Like at 10 years old, that was not even a concept to me. Uh, helping you stick, helping your sick parents is one thing. Waiting to live at home and not be free to have your own life and privacy, I just don't get. Yeah, that was the thing. Like I moved out of my parents' house the day I graduated high school because I was tired of hearing, when you're under my house, you'll live by my rules, right? I was so sick of hearing that. I was just like, yeah, all right, I am done being under this house, right? I am not going to live by these rules anymore. And so I bailed out the day I graduated high school and I never went back, right? The only time that I actually did ask for help from my parents was when I finally, like, was losing it all with the foreclosure and all that other stuff. But I was I didn't ask them for anything. Like even when I was broke, and hungry and eating cardboard pizza and all this stuff. Like, I never asked them for anything, like not one little bit, right? And not that they would have given it to me anyway, because I already knew they wouldn't, but you know, um, but I didn't ask. Like, I wasn't like I was out. I'm out of here, you know, and I was gone. So I know a lot of people don't have that same attitude, but then again, like, it doesn't really have, the environment doesn't really provide us with the ability to like have just a regular old job and have an apartment at 18 years old. Like, I mean, I guess it's possible, but it's really difficult nowadays. When I was a teenager, I mean, a few of us did it. Like, I wasn't the only one. There was a couple of my friends who had apartments and stuff like that as they were graduating high school. So, but it's just not, it just isn't the same anymore. I gotta go, guys. It is late. Uneducated Economist, thoughts on converting Canadian and US to metric carpentry. Let's do it. I am so ready to go to metric. I was ready to go to metric when I was like, whenever they tried to do it when I was like in the 5th grade or whatever it was. I was just like, what are we doing with these two systems? Just pick one, right? And the metric system is so much easier. Like, I don't know why the hell we even mess around with anything else. So, yeah, I don't know. I think we should go to metric and just call it good. All right. Take care, y'all. Yeah, I'm out of here myself. My dad's father left when he was young. His mom died of cancer and he was 23. He didn't have anyone to help him, and he did what he needed to do to take care of himself. Independence. Well, you know, there's no better lesson than trauma, right? Traumatic events, I mean, as devastating as they could be, there's no better lesson that you can learn, you know, from those things. There's no better motivation than somebody who's had everything taken from them, you know, and left with nothing. I mean, if you pull yourself out of that, your motivation is going to be so much better. You're going to have so much more drive, so much more, you know, care about accomplishing the task than somebody who hasn't experienced something like that. So as bad as that is, like, I mean, as much as I hate saying it like this, but embrace the trauma, you know, consider it like, you know, the stepping stone to improvement or something. All right. Trauma will sure you're right. Well, sure, yeah, right up. It sure will. All right. Uneducated Economist, thanks for reading everybody's comments tonight. I think that goes a long ways to connecting with your audience. Yeah, I thank you guys very much for hanging out. I mean, 3 hours is a long time to be hanging out here with us, but I really appreciate it. We have 151 of you, 247 likes, $63 in super chats. You guys are always so generous. I thank you so much. What else can I say, man? Uneducated Economist. You guys have a great night.